Joe Biden's disinformation board is done. It has been suspended, and Nina Jankowicz, the director of this program, has resigned in shame. The amazing thing is the news breaks through Taylor Lorenz, who writes an opinion piece about it, blaming, who was it, Jack Posobiec and the post-millennial?
Yeah.
Libby, your fault?
Yeah, it's entirely our fault.
Your fault.
We take the credit, y'all.
All right. We got a bunch of other stories, though. Half of Joe Biden's followers are fake, according to an audit. Elon Musk is confirming, yes, in fact, he will be voting Republican. Twitter says they're going to force him to buy Twitter. And they say Axios says they turn the table on him. And I'm like, they didn't want to sell to him in the first place, and now they're demanding it. I think Elon has won this one. We've got a couple other interesting stories. There was a news that broke of a female skateboarder who lost. She won second place, but she was knocked down because of a male athlete, a trans woman, who competed, and she made a post about it on Instagram that's going viral. So we'll discuss that too. Skateboarding, of course, is near and dear to my heart. I know a lot about this and a lot about the physics involved, which matters when it comes to the differences between males and females. But then we also have the U.S. soccer. The men and women are going to share the World Cup prizes.
Yeah, that doesn't seem reasonable at all.
That seems weird.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it. And obviously, Libby's here.
Here I am.
Who are you?
Here. I'm Libby Emmons. I'm the editor-in-chief with the Post Millennial. Glad to be here.
Right on. We got Shim Sham.
Seamus. I'm Seamus Coughlin. I create cartoons at Freedom Toons. If you guys want to check that out, go over there. We're going to be releasing a new cartoon tomorrow. Also, if you want to go to freedomtoons.com, put your email address in the little box. We will email you when we launch on May 30th. We're also going to have a subscription service where you'll get extra cartoons for $5 a month.
We got Elad. He's back.
Awesome. What's up, everybody? I am Elad. I'm an on-the-ground reporter for Timcast. Thanks for having me.
And honorary Ian today.
Honorary Ian, excited to be
Honorary. Not really Ian, but, you know.
Close enough. He's our knockoff Ian for the evening. I'm also here pushing buttons in the corner, as I do every evening.
Great value, Ian.
Yes.
Before we get started, my friends, head over to strongerbonesandlife.com and you can pick up your ageless multi-collagen. If you've ever wondered why I look so young, it's because I eat this stuff. Collagen is what you need for your skin, your joints, your hair, your nails. I was actually skating the other day and I ate it. You know, there's an SH that's supposed to go before that last one, but I think I almost broke my arm too. But I got strong bones.
Nice.
So I'm good. Head over to strongerbonesandlife.com. You'll get a 60-day money-back guarantee. The healthy aging support of collagen in its ideal forms. 5 key types of collagen you need from 4 different sources. For every order today, BioTrust will donate a nutritious meal to a hungry child in your honor through their partnership with NoKidHungry.org. To date, BioTrust has provided over 5 million meals to hungry kids. Please help BioTrust hit their goal of 6 million meals this year. It is non-GMO and free of artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, and sweeteners, and free of gluten, antibiotics, and RBGH and RBST. Nearly no odor or taste, unlike bone broth and other collagen supplements. There's no clumping, unlike other supplements. You'll get free shipping with every order. Free VIP live health and fitness coaching from BioTrust team of expert nutrition and health coaches for life with every order. And their free new e-report, the 14 foods for amazing skin with every order. And no joke, I slammed on my arm really bad. And I think I should have broken it, but strong bones. So go to strongerbonesandlife.com, pick that up. Shout out BioTrust. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Also, don't forget to head over to timcast.com, become a member. As a member, you'll get access to our exclusive members-only show coming up at 11 p.m. tonight. You'll be supporting our journalists and our writers, our opinion writers and columnists, and you're supporting the companies that we utilize in terms of infrastructure like Rumble, so we can help build up this parallel ecosystem of technology so we can become more resilient to censorship. But don't forget to also smash the like button right now, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and super chat any questions. It also helps the show. We read your super chats at around 9:30. We obviously can't read every single one, but we try to read as many as we can. Let's jump into the first big news from Timcast.com. Biden admin has suspended the Disinformation Governance Board. The board's executive director, Nina Jankowicz, announced her departure from the Department of Homeland Security. So just right off the bat, it was a terrible idea. I don't think he's doing this because of free speech. I think it's polling poorly among Democrats. Bill Maher came out on his show and said, these are not bright people in government. So when you get Bill Maher on his show to a million liberals saying this is bad, Don't be surprised then when they're like, oh, we got a midterm coming up and we're losing.
Well, wait. I mean, how do we know this is true or not if Biden suspended the disinformation board?
Well,
That's right.
we do know it. In fact, there was a question about it today in the White House press conference with the new press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. Peter Doocy asked if perhaps the Disinformation Governance Board was suspended due to disinformation.
Yeah, well, there we go.
And
Without a governance board, how would we know
Yeah,
if
and
this is info or not?
Jean-Pierre basically confirmed that, yes, there was misinformation surrounding the Disinformation Governance Board, that a lot of people had slammed it.
It's the perfect crime.
It's the perfect crime, yeah, that a lot of people had slammed it. It was actually pretty amazing to see this come down today.
That's misinformation. I don't believe it. No, I mean that seriously. That they were like, oh, people were spreading lies about it, so we had to shut it down. No.
No, it was obviously not lies. It was obvious that people were spreading truth about it. In fact, the head of the Ministry of Truth, the Minister of Truth, Nina Jankowicz, had spread substantial amounts of misinformation all by herself on her own feeds. And it was spectacular because as soon as she came out on Twitter and announced that this is what she'd been working on for the last 7 months, Jack Posobiec went out there and just started pulling all of her old tweets and all of her old things where she was talking about Russia collusion and all of these things, COVID things. And she was like just spreading misinformation and disinformation all over the place.
You know what? I really hope her and James Lindsay end up in a musical together.
Yes.
Did you guys see her singing?
Okay,
That was the whole
that
thing.
was
People
so
were like
good.
making fun of. I was like, dude,
That
make
would
fun
be
of her for
pretty
the
wild.
misinformation.
Oh,
Don't
I
make
know.
fun of her for singing.
Yeah.
Well, the political singing was real cringe.
Ugh.
When she did the Mary Poppins political thing,
my
I was like,
gosh.
come on.
That's no good.
What are we doing here?
I don't know, it convinced me.
But the actual, she got ragged on by the caller. I defended her when she was doing that what do I got to do to be famous bit. I'm like, yeah, it was good. Ian, I said I thought her singing was good because it's not political. She was just doing a bit. And she was like, I want to be famous. And then Ian was like, no, she's got her shoulders up and tight. She's not singing from the chest. She doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm like,
Which is hilarious because like usually Ian goes easier on people, even when they say things politically that we very much disagree with. But she's singing wrong. He's like, no, this is absolutely not. Like we cannot let this stand.
he took theater.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was like, I am offended by this.
Like, that's his
You know what?
area.
I studied theater for pretty much my entire life, and I actually thought that it was kind of cute that she was into doing performance art, even though she had this weird government career. I didn't have an issue with with that singing. I did have an issue with her COVID misinformation Mary Poppins song. I thought that was total trash.
It's weird how when we were young, the adults who were writing books about this stuff, when we weren't even alive, the books that were coming out were like the future dystopia. Men have steel jaws from the war and metal limbs, and cyborgs rule all. And the government comes and bangs a giant sword on the ground. Do as you're told. And what we really got was this permanent child who's singing Mary Poppins going, we're gonna block your news, we're gonna, and it's like, it's substantially creepier. Millennials aren't growing up.
No, but they don't want to. And in part, millennials aren't growing up because adults have told them that adulthood is bad. We come up with words like adulting as though there's some problem
know.
with responsibility. And it's like, just grow up, be responsible.
Why?
It's not bad. The thing, too, is it's like when you were a kid. Remember when you were a kid and everyone wanted to grow up? I don't know if you guys had that. And people were like, oh, I could buy all the toys I want. I'll get to eat all the candy that I want. And it's like now
It's like, yeah, you do get to do that.
And
I mean, of
it
course.
turns out you do. Like, I buy ice cream and I put it in my fridge, in my freezer, and then we eat it.
When I was like 20, I just one day was like, what's one thing I always thought I would do and never did? I'm going to go to the store and buy a whole thing of cookie dough and just walk around eating it.
Nice.
So I went to the grocery store. I
You can
grabbed
do
a
that.
thing of
It's
cookie
true.
dough. I bought it, started eating it, and some little kid saw me, and he went, as he walked, as
That's
I
right.
walked past, but it
That's
gets better.
right.
And I'm like, I looked at it and I was like,
Heck
that's
yeah.
right. And I bite it, and then 5 minutes later I went,
Oh, no.
I didn't
It's
see
not
the
good.
aftermath.
like, this is why my parents said you don't do these things.
By the way, I meant James O'Keefe, not James Lindsay. When
Oh, I was
I'm so
confused.
sorry. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not
I was like,
James.
what
That doesn't
are
make any sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about like his sword movement.
Yeah,
That's
no,
pretty good,
James
too.
Lindsay would never be in a musical.
No, only
Maybe.
swords.
You
No,
know,
they wouldn't allow it.
That's
No,
funny
so-
because I pictured James O'Keefe when you said James Lindsay
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I knew that he had done the thing.
He's all about musical theater.
That would be funny too because the left thinks James O'Keefe is just like the king of disinformation and manipulation, and the right calls Nina Jankowicz the minister of truth.
I think what we have
Romeo
right here.
and Juliet with James O'Keefe and Nina Jankowicz.
What we have is a Broadway show. Like what we need is investors. That's all we need. This would sell out.
How much do we need? I'll fund it.
Right? Like what do we need for a Broadway show? Like start with $500,000, something
Done.
like that. Let's do
Sign
it.
it. So here's my serious question though is, When you look at the DHS disinformation board and you look at Nina Jankowicz, they literally put a child in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. And the issue is the adults, people who are more mature and more understanding, aren't in these jobs.
Well, what they did was they put a fool in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. They put Mayorkas in charge.
Yeah.
And he came out shortly after Biden was inaugurated and said to immigrants all across the world, we're not saying don't come, we're saying don't come now. And then he proceeded to deny that repeatedly, that he had said it. And he did say it, and he did mean it. And that's why we have so many people storming the border.
Yeah,
I got a good idea for a cartoon you could do, Seamus.
Yeah, is this about Biden saying come and tell me? Okay.
It is the disinformation board announcing they're shutting down, and then all the journalists are like writing it down, and they're like breaking news, and as they're doing it, Nina Jankowicz presses a button, and then the whole stage like goes down into a sub base where it's like they walk in and the general's like, we've increased your funding by $3 billion. And so the whole thing was just disinformation.
No, they're going, the misinformation board's going out of business. All our misinformation has to go. Misinformation on the dollar, 20% off all misinformation.
That's clever. I like that.
And then you highlight Nina Jankowicz's tweets and the things she said.
Oh, my goodness.
It's funny because when she said that thing about the laptop, she's like, Joe Biden says 50 different people said this. It was clearly disinformation or misinformation, whichever one you want to pick. And she was like, I was just quoting the president. It's like, okay, so by your standard, you are spreading disinformation. Thank you.
Yes.
Did you correct it? No.
I mean, was that an excuse if Trump said something that was adjudicated to have been false by the fact checkers? Could you say, I was just repeating what the president said?
Well, no,
not misinformation.
Actually, as you know, whenever Trump would make a claim and the media called him a liar, he would just say, well, that's what I was told.
That's what I was told, quite
and then the
frankly.
media would go, oh, we get it. We'll retract that.
Like Trump, Trump was in fact told that. He was.
Actually, it's a funny thing. What if a journalist, Donald Trump said, this will cost X amount of dollars, and they're like, how does that make sense? That's not true. Well, that's what I was told. So a journalist actually investigates, and they find the person who told Trump that, and they're like, fact check true. Donald Trump was told this.
It was Corn Pop. They formed an alliance behind the scenes.
I'm trying to understand who this was originally angled to try to appeal to in the Biden administration. Was it the MSNBC liberals? I don't understand.
Do you think it was to appeal to anyone, or do you think it was just to try to shut people up?
Well, what they were actually trying to do, if you look at what their documentation says in the first place, their goal was to dispel disinformation outside of the U.S.
Russian disinfo, right?
No, like about immigration and stuff. So months and months ago, the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, had talked about how one of the Biden administration's plans to get people to stop trying to come to the U.S. illegally was to give proper information in those locales to tell them, like, actually don't come. So I think this was part of that effort. That was sort of the idea. But there's so little goodwill for the Biden administration at this point. They spread all kinds of ridiculous misinformation and disinformation that coming out with something like this, they had no chance. It doesn't, if they had come out and said, this is part of our plan to get immigrants to not come to the U.S., we're going to tell them not to come, and gave it some sort of name like that, it would have been much better received, I think, because a lot of people would like there to be more security at the border.
Yeah, well, I mean, and their entire regime depends upon spreading misinformation, right? When they came out and were saying things like, the reason we have higher prices is because store owners are greedy.
Right.
And it's Putin's fault that we have high gas prices. I mean,
Joe Biden said that to tackle inflation, we're going to make the corporations, or what do you say, make the rich
pay more taxes.
And then Peter Doocy was like, how does making rich people pay more taxes lower inflation?
Well, that counters all of their arguments about how rich people don't. They also say rich people don't stimulate spending; they just hoard all the money. By that logic, taxing them could never curb inflation.
My favorite is that Joe Biden launched his campaign off of misinformation.
And also, they want
the Charlottesville stuff.
Yeah, they sure did. He sure did. And Rittenhouse and everything. He lied about that.
Not to mention that he's run before the Charlottesville ever happened. He ran
five
hold
times.
On. So
does
that matter?
He's lied all the time, and he's plagiarized everything.
Yep.
And he's going to come out and be like, I'm going to tackle disinformation. I came up with that. And then it's like there's a guy standing next to him who's like writing it down, and he's like, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. It's pathetic. It's just that this is a regime which repeatedly says things that are verifiably untrue. I mean, we're not just talking about a situation where someone might be using facts which are true to construct a narrative that we disagree with. Like, saying that businesses are raising their prices just because of corporate greed is an unbelievably insane and easily falsifiable thing to say. Did businesses just get greedy after we flooded the economy with extra money?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. I've been fact checked.
There you
They're
go.
all greedy.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
but
super
they
greedy. That's why they're trying so hard to hire people
Yeah, well, and that's
and offering all of these signing bonuses to do so.
and what's fascinating to me is like they just became greedy after a bunch of money was injected into the economy. Like that's when they decided to become greedy and raise prices. Interesting.
Also, it's interesting that Biden administration is currently looking to reduce sanctions on Venezuela in order to gain oil exports from that country, as though Venezuela is some perfectly fine place. Like, why did we have sanctions? They haven't made any changes.
It's sad
It's just that we
couldn't
want their
force them to
stuff.
pump.
Yeah.
And same with Saudi Arabia. If
Yeah.
it was Donald Trump, I think we would have been able to get something out of the Saudis, but might be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Taylor Lorenz.
Oh no.
So we got the story from the Washington Post, how the Biden administration let right-wing attacks derail its disinformation efforts. I don't understand why the Washington Post doesn't label this stuff opinion, and I don't understand why NewsGuard gives them a 100 of 100 when they
Yikes.
don't label opinion. In it, she says right here that disinformation has emerged as an urgent and important issue. Important to whom? That's your opinion. Hey, why don't you put an opinion on this? People see this stuff and they think it's facts. It is not. It is Taylor Lorenz's opinion on what happened. So anyway, in the article, she falsely claims it was right-wing disinformation that derailed it when Bill Maher on his show came out and said, this is ridiculous. These are not bright people. What are they doing? Bill Maher, one of the most prominent liberal voices, said this is bad, but it was all the right wing. Now, you know what I'm offended by? She doesn't give Bill Maher any of the credit, and she gives it all to you.
Yeah, she gives it to the
That's not
post-millennial.
fair.
She claims that the post-millennial was part of this campaign to take down the Disinformation Governance Board. And, you know, perhaps we were. Perhaps we should take some credit for that.
Was she
upholding
knocking on your
free
door?
Speech. No, she wasn't, actually. She's never reached out to us. She blocked me on Twitter. I found that out one
Same.
time when
Yeah.
I reached out to her for a comment about how she had doxed libs of TikTok for no apparent reason.
She blocked me on Twitter. It was completely unreasonable. All I did was put up a billboard in Times Square saying that she doxed libs of TikTok, and then she blocked me.
And then
Seamus,
she
are you blocked by Taylor Lorenz
Let's
too?
see. Liz, I
that
guess
would
this
make
is going to be a
everybody-
Yeah, I
litmus
think you
test of
should-
whether
I
I'm
think
like
you
a
should check it
real
out.
concern. Are you blocked?
I'm blocked.
I don't know
Really?
why
You
I'm
are?
blocked,
Yeah, is that the
Why did she
threshold?
block you?
Hold on.
I
But
think
what's-
she might have blocked people by like if you
Like a blocked
follow,
list.
Yeah.
something like
yeah,
that.
well, I'm on a lot of those. What's interesting though is that she's claiming that we dug up Nina Jankowicz's past social media posts and published articles to generate controversy. It was not to generate controversy. It was to expose exactly who was the minister of truth, who was running this bogus organization, who was running this operation, to expose who it was that the Biden administration thought it was worthwhile to put in charge of something this serious. Someone who had spread disinformation themselves, someone who had, you know, essentially called for censorship, and someone who clearly should not be trusted to give accurate or truthful information.
It is extremely ironic because Jack Posobiec just found Jankowicz's early tweets and released them. And
He took a
it's
look at
ironic
it, yeah.
because that's the first thing Taylor Lorenz does when she tries to make a hit piece on somebody. They just
This
look
is-
up their old tweets. So
This is what Glenn Greenwald pointed out. He said, according to Taylor Lorenz, you are not allowed to dig into the private information of high-ranking Homeland Security officials, but it's okay to go after an anonymous person who has bad ideas.
No, exactly. Like, when did the role of journalist become being tattletales on your average person? Like, someone on Twitter said something
Well,
that
I'll
I
tell
don't
you
like. I need to
exactly
expose
when
them.
that happened.
almost always, hasn't it?
That happened.
But like the average person,
You know,
I don't know.
you know how
It happened with me too. It happened with me too, because that was the first time when it was acceptable to just start telling tales out of school about somebody's bad date.
I think I view journalists like Mini-Me. Like Dr. Evil is the government and Mini-Me is just like, you know.
Well, I mean, you made this point that that's always what they've done. I agree with you that it's always been very much corrupt. I mean, the mainstream media in this country has been a disaster for a lot longer than people realize. But it's the going after like everyday, average, random people thing, which is very strange and
Yeah,
new.
there are creepy weirdo authoritarians running most of our institutions. When you look at the Supreme Court leaks, like these crackpots, these people are in everything. They have no regard for tradition or culture. And I'm not saying all tradition, all culture. I'm saying they have no regard for community. They have no regard for any kind of norms, respect. They have, I imagine, they have their moral compass, their moral
values?
foundation. Sorry,
Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah.
zero, nothing. They don't even have care and fairness. It's just literally nothing. They're just confused, angry people.
Well,
That's
they
it.
think that they're doing the right thing.
I don't believe that.
You don't think that they think they're doing the right thing? I think they think that they're doing the appropriate thing by leaking this information.
I think they're NPCs.
You think Taylor Lorenz is an NPC?
No. I think Taylor Lorenz is the perfect example of a modern shock jock. I think, based on conversations I've had with people in the industry, it seems to me, it's my opinion, that she was hired specifically to generate outrage and controversy by writing shock content that is bordering on defamation. The goal being, why are we talking about the Washington Post now? Because she writes something that's a clear opinion, not labeled as opinion, knowing it'll anger a lot of people. She accuses only the right, ignores Bill Maher, which will clearly, the right will be like, hey, you can't say, like, that's not true and you're wrong. And then shows will produce segments where we'll talk about her. It will generate earned press, and that's what they want. So I've had some conversations. I'm trying to get better confirmation, but my understanding is that the people at the Post are well aware of it, that there are veteran journalists who throw up in their mouths a little bit every day because they're sickened by what the paper has become, because they know she was brought on specifically as a shock jock, as a culture warrior shock jock to generate scandal, and that's her thing.
Well, and she does, and then she goes on TV and cries about it when people
Exactly.
don't like what she writes.
For better or worse, I think reporting's always had this issue where people have been activists, but the more I get involved and the more I pay attention to the news, the more I realize that it's almost everybody that's an activist reporter nowadays. It's hard to find anybody who isn't really just trying to back up their priors. This is extremely true with Taylor Lorenz, but she's not the only one.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I've probably brought him up a million times on this show, but we talk a bit about Walter Duranty every now and again. I mean, this is very early stuff. We're going back to the 30s here, and the fact that he was covering up the Soviet genocide because he was himself a communist and won a Pulitzer for it.
And they're winning Pulitzers for fake news to this day.
I don't think they rescinded that Pulitzer.
They did not rescind the
That's what
Pulitzer.
it
No,
was
they
too.
refused
They
to.
didn't rescind it either, which is
Insane.
We've talked about doing our own journalistic award ceremony to counter the Pulitzers.
The
because we
Timmys?
could. I would not call it that. That's
No.
a terrible name.
Yeah.
But we would call it something. Maybe like the Truth Award. That's great branding. Like if you call your social network Truth Social.
that's what Trump would call it.
I
Man,
don't
that's
think you
just-
should call it that.
No, I think it's a terrible idea. A lot of people.
think so, too.
He's
It's a
actually
terrible name.
trademarked the
It
word
is a
truth.
terrible
You
name.
can't
Yeah,
take
people.
it.
Someone pointed out. I saw a tweet. They're like, "Why didn't he call it Kafifi?" And like
That would have been
everybody
really clever and
would have been
cute.
like, "Download the Kafifi app," and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
would want it.
Oh, that's true.
Trump's
Solid
Kafifi
point.
app, and you need a weird name, but it's just like Truth, and then you like post truths.
I hate that. I hate posting truths.
There's a disinformation
I
board.
have
Like
an
you
issue
post
with
anything
that.
that's not true, you're kicked off the website. Like that's it.
right?
I'm gonna retruth. Jeez.
Retruth.
Terrible
That
branding.
actually sounds like something the Disinformation Governance Board would do. They would retruth.
I think the institutions are in decay. I think that the culture war is split between those in the know and those who are not in the know. It has nothing to do with your political positions, because I think everyone here has varying political positions we all disagree with each other on, because we've had these conversations before to a great degree, including foreign war or abortion. But we all agree on basically what's the fact. And so if that's what unites this table and the people watching, we're like, okay, what's true and what's not true? What can be verified? What's not verified? And then the other side of the culture war are people who have no idea the Democrats tried to make a legal path towards third trimester or late term abortions.
Well, they did. It's right there in the.
But they didn't read the book. I mean, I'm sorry, they didn't read the bill.
Oh,
So-
it's right
so-
there. I read the bill.
But that's exactly it. So if I read the bill and I'm like, that's what it says, why does it say that? And then we have a liberal progressive on the show who are like, no. It's like, did you read the bill? No.
You have to read the bill. That was like
they
with the
don't. They
parental
don't.
rights and education bill. No one read that bill either. And so you had a bunch of people coming out, including Mark Hamill, just being like, yay. And
it's like, what are you
yay.
talking-
And it's
what are you-
like, no one is prohibited from
Children.
saying that. What are you
Children.
talking about? It's
They are
saying
children.
don't teach them about weird sex acts in school.
It literally, when they were all screaming gay over and over again, I'm like, imagine being in a daycare and all the kids are yelling neener, neener, and you're like, kids, be quiet. Kids, stop yelling that. And they're all going neener, neener, and they won't stop. That's what it is.
Yes.
They're all yelling something, and you're like, why are you yelling this? Some kid goes, hey, if you yell neener, neener, they're going to get us ice cream. So they all start screaming, and you're like, I'm not going to do that. That's not children.
Yes.
They don't know what they're talking about. They're too arrogant to actually read it. They believe these psychotic ramblings of people like Taylor Lorenz. And then we have to deal with the problems when they go and vote for nonsensical garbage.
Yes. Like children suddenly believing that they are actually the opposite sex just because they came up with it randomly.
It's crazy because
And
the
wanna wear
truth
towels,
here in these larger narratives almost doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the bill says as long as you're allowed to run on it and are able to run on it as like the Don't Say Gay bill. That's the only thing that people are going to
and that
really
was
understand.
disinformation. That was disinformation, and it was repeated by the White House over and over again. It was repeated in the briefing room. You know, it's disinformation that Joe Biden says that the, best course forward is gender affirmation, telling parents to affirm their children and it will save their lives. That's disinformation. This White House consistently spreads falsehoods and claims that it's true.
Absolutely.
Well, how about we talk about those falsehoods? We got this report from Newsweek. Half of Joe Biden's Twitter followers are fake. Audit reveals.
Man.
That's
Bro.
disinformation.
I believe this
People
was,
are going, you're telling me he got 80 million followers? No.
I believe this was true also. We were looking at this today at Post Millennial. I think this was also true of Justin Trudeau's Twitter followers. Most of them are.
What is this based
fake.
off of? Just so
Well, there's an audit company. It's called SparkToro.
So it's based on Dinesh's documentary. That,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I'm
right.
kidding.
because I'm really cynical about this stuff, only because I know when you sign up to Twitter, you're gonna get like 3 people. It's gonna be like Joe Biden, Elon Musk, and like Jack or something, and like so I'd understand why. So I'd like to look at. I don't know. I'd like to understand the methodology a little bit. What's going on? how
I don't
did
know if
something.
they reveal their methodology, and I think they said fake or spam accounts. And it's I'm sorry, that was Musk.
Well, I guess they said there was like this tweet harvesting going on.
It's not
for
clear
Joe Biden.
how Musk arrived at the 20% figure. He figured out well and changed a series of tweets. Anyway,
So there's a couple ways to do it. I think Elon may have made a mistake. When Agrawal said it was less than 5%, he said of daily active users. Of their active users, the fake accounts comprise of less than 5%. Elon Musk, based on this, said all users must be around 20%. So there's a difference. There are a lot of users that don't do anything. They're counting monthly or daily active users or whatever. But I believe this is likely true because it's the @POTUS account. Whenever a bot or a spam bot will sign up, it's going to follow prominent accounts to try and look real. And of course, it's going to follow the president. So that it's like following a bunch of verified accounts. And here's a big one.
Well, isn't it funny how like it's a bunch of accounts with people who we know are not the actual person following an account that we know is not being tweeted by the actual person either? It's like Joe Biden's not running the Twitter account.
No,
the
I
whole
mean,
thing
he's-
is fake.
Joe
The whole
Biden's
thing is
not
fake.
running the Twitter account.
Yeah,
He's not running the
I know.
country.
Believe it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Elon Musk said it's whoever's controlling the teleprompter. But yeah, Donald Trump actually was tweeting.
There is
Yes,
no
Donald
denying
Trump
that.
was actually tweeting
He
from-
could not
from
hire a
the
writer
bathroom.
to
He
write
was-
those things.
He was tweeting from the bathroom.
Yeah.
Donald Trump as president.
isn't
would-
that how
he would-
everybody tweets?
He would watch.
Dude,
he
can
would-
you imagine someone being
But
like,
that's
I was
amazing.
Donald Trump's tweet writer, like putting that on your resume? No, it was Trump. Well, there's no way anyone else said any of that.
Would you imagine
He
a
would-
staffer's outside the bathroom reading a tweet, just being like, what the fuck?
he would watch Fox News, and then
Yeah.
he would tweet it right away. And he'd be like, Tucker said this, or did you hear about this? Then he would go to rallies and he'd repeat it. It was really obvious that he would just watch Fox and then be like, boom, something happened.
I liked it. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it was
as
amazing.
and being a journalist and seeing Trump just tweet random things was really a lot of fun. You could get like a whole bunch of stories just off of what Trump was saying on Twitter.
I was told by
Now we
corporate
do it for
journalists
Elon
that
Musk
it was violence. That
That's right.
every day there were people, journalists who were assigned to, like, there were journalists at news organizations who were told your job is to keep refreshing Trump's Twitter feed, and then when he says something, write it up.
Oh my goodness! And they were saying it was violence. His tweets.
They were saying that it was like stressful and that they needed like health days. That once he lost the election, they're like, finally it's over. Or I'm sorry, once he got banned, they were like I'm crying tears of joy. Like I can go back to normal working now. No more stress. They were saying how they would get text messages at 2 a.m. from their boss being like, Trump just tweeted, write it up, and they'd be like, ah. No, the world must
ironic.
seem so
These
It's,
miserable.
guys famous.
it's really not that bad. Like I work from home. I live in New York City. I have a job as a journalist. Sometimes I have to write things at 2 a.m. and it's like, It's totally fine. I have no problem doing that.
As we saw with
I mean,
the
if
Twitter,
I'm up,
the Twitter
otherwise
leaks from
somebody
Veritas,
else can do it.
this guy said he worked, 4 hours in the last quarter.
Yeah.
These
That's
people,
right, he did.
They're children. They don't want to work. The craziest thing is I saw someone post something where they were like, they said something about all of my friends who are going on vacation, their summer plans, and I'm stuck here with the kids, and I'm just like, I don't understand if I don't know if he's complaining or if he's like bragging. I don't understand what he's trying to say. But the conversation was basically like the dinks, the dual income, no kids people were like going to travel and party and living the good life, and it's like, you know what I don't get? I'll segue sort of why everybody wants to be younger.
I don't get that either.
It's like you
I mean, I don't want to be older either, but I don't want to be younger.
Well, I don't care either way. It's like you live, you grow, you age, and then
Well, aging
you pass.
I think aging is going to be painful. I'm not really quite looking forward to that.
We're all like, look, a lot
It's
of
better
a
than
lot
the
of-
alternative. Yes, it's
a
better
lot
than
of-
the alternative.
Yep.
A lot of really great people who came before us got old
Yeah,
and they died, and I'm just like, why would I not want the human experience?
yeah, that is part of
Wait,
it.
that sounds like a cope. I'd want to live longer if I could.
I've
Like
had
if I
this-
could almost
A
live
cope?
forever. Yeah, because it almost sounds like you say you don't want to live forever because we don't have the opportunity to, and I'm saying that to make myself feel
No,
better
that's not
about
true.
it.
You know what's funny is I have this same debate with my son who is 12, and we talk about whether or not you'd want to live forever. And I'm always like, yeah, you'd want to live forever. That's amazing. You could see everything. You could see how the human story comes to a final conclusion, like what really happens. And he's like, yeah, but you'd have to watch all the people that you love and care about die. Why would you want to do that, Mom?
Yeah, but then you get to see
that's
them
not
be
the issue.
born.
The issue is after a good 30 years, you're like, I understand humans.
Yeah.
Then
So
you're sick
I
of
don't
them.
think there's any. I mean,
Really?
maybe you'll watch. I don't want to live forever. Maybe you'll watch technology develop, and then you'll get to the point where you can plug your brain into the matrix or something. But I'm just like, I would rather. And the human experience is the human experience. I don't understand why it's a bad thing that people
It's
want.
not
to
a bad thing. I mean, it's just,
Well, I don't understand why it's something to
No.
be avoided.
I don't think
like,
it's something to be avoided either, personally.
I look forward
but,
to being old.
But if
Like,
there
oh,
were the
haven't
opportunity
you-
to live further,
Nah,
that
Did-
would be cool.
Did you ever see
Like,
Johnny
I'd like
Knoxville?
to live to be like 150, something like that. Perfect
Remember
health.
when Johnny Knoxville dressed up like an old man and just caused trouble?
Bad
It's
grandpa,
because people
yeah.
are like, he's an old guy. What are you going to do about it? It's like,
Are
oh,
you
yeah.
saying that's going to be you as an old man?
Like
Well-
Grandpa Simpson? Yeah.
Not Grandpa Simpson, like Johnny Knoxville was doing. Like he would walk in, he would just like grab a bunch of groceries and just like walk away. But they're like, he's just an old guy. He's confused.
That
Don't
is
know.
what Grandpa Simpson does. He says that they let you shoplift.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't shoplift, but when you're old, it's just like you just go and do. It's like you've got nothing left to lose. The world's your oyster. Go skydiving, and you're like, I don't know.
When you're like 90?
Yes.
I
Why
think
do
that
that?
hurts.
Heart attack.
You could run for president.
mean-
Why go skydiving? You could still be president. I think
Definitely.
Bernie Sanders is about to run again too.
Do you think he's going to run?
Yeah, I do.
I think
But
Donald
personally,
Trump was
like,
probably thinking that. He was
Talking
like,
about like kids and stuff, I look forward to the summer because I have to travel a lot for work, and I'm looking forward to the summer because I'm going to take my son with me to all of the places that I have to go. And I'm stoked. It's going to be awesome.
That sounds beautiful.
Right? We're going to I'm really hoping I can find good hotels with nice pools. This is what I'm hoping for my summer.
how did we get into immortality from bots on Twitter?
Well,
I think
because
something
because
about being
robots
old.
never die.
That's right.
Yeah, those bots are going to carry Joe Biden's wisdom into the future, Tim.
The person running Joe Biden's account is actually a bot. Elon does an audit.
Okay, that would not be surprising.
Not at all.
The person standing at the podium is actually a bot.
If you look at the ridiculous things that his account tweets out,
You
they're
know,
just so
I
stupid.
read-
It would be really funny if just like one day when Joe was like stuttering, a guy walked up with like a screwdriver and like bopped him on the arm and then like jiggled him, and then he was like, the economy has been in dire straits for some time. It's like
No, he would never admit that.
percussive maintenance, I think they call it. No, like he's malfunctioning. Sparks are coming out.
Yeah,
No, well,
somehow Biden thinks Putin is running the country, and that's why everything's going to hell.
Well, I saw a conspiracy pyramid a while ago, Tim, and I believe it had Biden is a robot as one
it
of the
really?
conspiracy theories. Yeah, actually, let me double check. Let me double check.
No,
that.
if Biden was a robot, that's like conspiracy theories are usually negative, right? It's like a bad thing is happening. If Biden was a robot, I'd be like, oh, that's good. That's pretty good, Because like right
Yeah,
now, I'm
it
actually
wouldn't be
worried.
such a bad robot. He's
Well,
not a bad robot.
I'm worried about Biden's capabilities to do the job, and if it turned out he's actually a robot, I'd be like, oh, okay, Biden's in poor health, but robot's all right.
I think
right?
we should be concerned about Biden's ability to run the country.
Oh, 1,000,000%. We should have been concerned during the primaries. We were.
Yeah, we were. It's really terrifying to see someone who is as dotty and confused as this old man is actually try to lead the entire world, essentially,
Well, isn't it
which
wild?
is the job.
I mean, the fact that the Democratic Party even picked him, like they had other options. They had other options.
They
and
had,
they picked a
yeah.
man who
I
was
don't know why they did it.
senile.
Like, if the idea was that anyone could beat Trump, why not run Buttigieg?
Right.
They're just like, nah.
Well, we have him now anyway. He's out there fixing potholes.
What do you think about Elon? He tweeted that he's officially running as a I'm sorry.
He's
Voting, yeah, calm down there.
officially-
We need a
Whoa.
disinformation
Voting.
board right now.
Oh.
Hold on. By the way, I have to say, so I pulled the conspiracy theory pyramid up again. Yes, Biden is a robot is a conspiracy theory on there. Not only that, but it is a theater that it is a theory that makes you a danger to yourself and others to believe.
So Elon Musk tweeted, "In the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party, but they have become the party of division and hate, so I can no longer support them and will vote Republican. Now watch their dirty tricks campaign against me unfold." And he also then tweets, "Political attacks on me will escalate dramatically in coming months."
Yep.
Now, what do you guys think? Does it matter? Is it something we all have experienced ourselves and know already?
I think one thing that it shows is how far to the left the Republican Party has actually moved.
Yeah.
It's substantially to the left of what it used to be. And you can tell because people like Elon Musk are going to vote Republican after a lifetime of voting Democrat. I'm essentially a conservative because the Democrats have gone so far to the left and I stayed right here and the Republicans came over and I was like, oh, hey, fellas.
Exactly. No, it's true. And I hear so many people say that. The only time I've ever heard someone say something along the lines of, I'm on the left just because the Republican Party's gone so far right is when they're on corporate media and there's some rhino.
Right.
Right? It's like, oh, no one in real life says that ever.
Well, 'cause
It's like
not
some
true. It's just not true.
60-year-old
It's not true.
60-year-old millionaire warmonger who's like, I don't know, I don't recognize my party anymore.
Yes.
The Democrats want to blow up kids in the Middle East, so I'm going to vote for them. It's like, okay, that's why I won't.
That's why I won't.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same.
I'm super conflicted on Elon Musk continuing to evolve and put his hands more into politics because he's going to be another billionaire potentially funding candidates in the future. He might be another Peter Thiel type figure in the future, so it'll be interesting to see how he changes and develops. But I am highly
I wonder why
don't
he
know.
would fund any politicians. Do we
well
really think
because
he has
he's trying to get involved in politics or one way or another, and Twitter
But he
was
can't
a
be
way.
president, right?
I think
he
he was
can't.
born in
'Cause he
South
was
Africa.
born in South
But it
Africa.
wouldn't be worth it for him to run. He could just have his paws on different elections by funding people. But what I was trying to get to in a full circle kind of way is that he still has deep connections to China. He still has Tesla factories in China, and he will still be at the whim of this government, the Chinese government, the communist Chinese government, that is. If he does want to do any business there in the future, he needs to make sure he doesn't step on any toes. I know we kind of overlooked that because Musk has become this sort of anti-left figure. And when
No,
people
we don't
do
overlook that. We talk about it all the time.
that what?
That Elon Musk has praised China on more than one occasion. He's got factories in China.
Sure, but he's kind of become a hero in some online anti-left circles because he is a big voice willing to come out against these people. And it seems as though all you have to do nowadays to get a lot of fans on Twitter is say the obvious that men can't become women
Yep.
or something like that. So it's just, I think people ought to be cautious who they end up supporting being reactionaries against others.
But if you think about saying men can't become women on Twitter, a month ago that would have gotten you banned from the
No.
platform.
Maybe. Twitter's bans are it's a caste system.
Mm-hmm.
The more followers you have, the more you can say. So I tweeted, what did I tweet? Don't cut off teenage girls' tits.
Mm-hmm.
And someone reported me, and I got an email from Twitter, and it was like, you've been reported under German law or whatever, and we found no violation. Whenever I tweet stuff like this, people are like, oh, Tim's gonna get banned now, and I'm like, you kidding, dude? I got 1 million followers. They're not gonna ban me.
Well, the
Yeah.
Babylon Bee got banned for saying that
Oh, I know.
Rachel Levine, who's obviously a man, is a man.
But that's because
And it was
Twitter's
funny. It
policy
was
is if
even
you
a good
target an
joke.
individual.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. I
Yeah,
see.
so if you say a generality, then they give you more leeway. If you have a small account, like 100 followers, and you say, men and women are different or something, they'll ban you. If you have a big account, like the Babylon Bee, and said men are different, they'd leave you alone, but they said Rachel Levine specifically.
Is it
Right.
too cliche to say that double mastectomies are modern day lobotomies almost in a way?
Well, they don't.
I hear
They don't
that.
remove your brain.
They don't remove the same thing, but just as we look back on lobotomies now, sort of medical malpractice is how in the future we will
I was
look
thinking
back
about
on
that
these
too.
sort of surgeries.
I mean, it's certainly an anti-mother operation.
I think
right?
it's like a butchering. It's like the next stage of plastic surgery and kind of a butchering of a body.
Yeah,
butchering
I don't want to.
eventually
I don't want to.
is
I don't want to
reverse.
deviate too far from what we were talking about because we are going to talk about this in just a second.
Sure.
So talking about Elon and Twitter.
Sure. Well, if we're on the topic of Elon, I just want to respond to what you said. I totally agree. I've said this in the past. I'm cautiously optimistic about Elon. I'm not totally sold. And it's absolutely true. All someone has to say is, I'm not completely all the way on the far left with respect to one single issue, or I think the left has gone too far here. And all of a sudden, the right wing is all over that person.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of parallels between Elon Musk and somebody who's commonly demonized, Bill Gates. I mean, these are both people who had their come-ups in the tech industry. And some of the stuff Elon Musk says is crazier than what Bill Gates says. Elon Musk is the chip planter.
Well, the difference
What
is,
about-
though,
what
here's
about
what I
that
really
thing
like.
where-
Elon Musk and
here's-
Bill Gates, Romeo and Juliet.
I will say,
And they're
though,
both billionaires. They're both, the richest people that existed during their time period, during the top. But Bill Gates gets demonized like no other, and Elon Musk becomes a hero of the same people.
Well-
The same people who will complain about Bill Gates being some demonic, cabal man will praise Elon Musk for the simplest things on Twitter.
Sure,
Well,
but I want to
that's the
mention one
Broadway
thing about
show,
that.
though, if I may. That's the Broadway show. Nina Jankowicz plays Elon Musk as Juliet, and James O'Keefe plays Bill Gates as Romeo.
So
And that's the show.
to your point, I hear so the reason I consider myself cautiously optimistic about Elon Musk, but I don't like Bill Gates, comes down to one really important issue. It's that Bill Gates has repeatedly said things like there are too many people in this world. He's discussed population control, whereas Elon Musk is basically the only ultra wealthy person saying we need more people.
He's
and that's
right.
why
We
the
do need
population
more
narrative is a
people.
myth.
We do
the
need more
brain
people.
chips. And
No,
stuff
I'm not.
Well,
I'm
the
not a fan of the
Neuralink is
brain
weird.
chips.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's
I'm not a
weird.
fan of the brain
So
chips,
you
but I
could-
think it's gotten to the point where there are so few elites saying anything even remotely sane that when one of them does, it's a victory.
And
Look-
doesn't he have a bunch of kids?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know Bill Gates also has a history with his father supporting Margaret Thatcher or Sanger in the past
That
with
wouldn't shock
connections
me.
with Planned Parenthood. But I
Yeah.
still think, if you want to extrapolate what Elon Musk says with the brain chips, it's just as bad as anything I think Bill Gates has said in particular. So it's just, I think it's an interesting thing how
Well,
we
hold
I
on,
think
hold on.
it's interesting that
Hold
the
on,
two
what
of
has he
them
said
are
about the brain
opposed.
chips?
I think he
Are
said
you
he
just
wants
talking
a
about
future.
Neuralink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Neuralink is, it's a pretty fascinating tool, and if it's used properly, I think it would really help people who are disabled.
Okay,
And-
fascinating.
right. So one of the things it can help do is people who have spinal injuries.
Right.
It can help connect their brain to other parts of the body.
And
But,
Bill Gates is trying to cure
but-
different diseases in
Sure.
Africa with
And so,
vaccines,
so that's why this is a moot point. My question is, what is Elon Musk is going to force the chip into people's brains? Well, offering up a service that you don't like and don't think is creepy is bad. We can criticize people who do bad things, but the question around here is around freedom. Bill Gates has called for rescinding freedoms, saying, how is Elon going to stop misinformation? You can't do this. He said, we need less people. And Bill Gates said that. And Elon Musk has said, we actually need more people to sustain the planet, and people should have freedom of speech. Now, the things they work on, we can criticize. But when we're specifically talking about Elon and things we like, it's for the things we like. And when we criticize him, it's for the things we don't like. And the end result, I believe, is supporting freedom of speech and defending the rights of humans, or saying people are good and we need more of them, will probably create a better outcome in the long run, no matter what he works on in terms of Neuralink. Bill Gates saying the opposite is darkness that will lead us on a very dark path of death and suffering.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with that, and I do like this idea that we need more people because we need people to support the people that already exist, and we need to create more resources. And human beings are the best resource the planet has.
I don't completely agree that we've talked about overpopulation, and there are a lot of people who say, actually, let me try and find Google Earth. There are a lot of people who say that we're not overpopulated. And that's an opinion I think you guys have, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at a map of the United States?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you ever actually looked down at the level of development in North America? Like,
It's only really popping on the coasts.
no,
Well, I mean, you can-
no, the entirety, everything. When you look at, pull up, we've got
when
Google
you
Earth
say
here.
develement, I mean, like when you see pictures
Humans
of it at night, you see
altering
where
the
the
terrain.
lights are.
Human
right?
altering terrain. Doesn't matter where the lights are. Grab Illinois, for instance, and when you zoom in, basically the entirety of the state has been developed. There's some pockets of trees in some state parks, but you can just go straight through the state in any direction, and every little square is human development.
Why is that bad?
So I'm not saying that's bad, But I'm certainly saying when the entirety of Illinois or other states are completely developed, overpopulation is something that I think we should discuss or entertain.
Well, shouldn't we then? People maybe should move to other places. I mean,
It's
if you do that,
it's not about moving. They don't live there. We've taken the land and we've cut it and developed it to produce a certain thing. So perhaps we can say, maybe we're not overpopulated, but we're overproducing. We are utilizing massive swaths of millions of acres or whatever to produce all this food and all these resources that we're consuming like crazy. Maybe if humans consumed less, we might not have to worry about overdevelopment. We're shipping in fertilizer from Europe. Norman Borlaug has increased crop yield, but nutrient density has diminished substantially. So I think, as much as I respect Elon Musk saying things like more people is better than less people, because when you say less people, really bad things happen.
Yeah.
I think we should try and make sure we're having a legitimate conversation. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can point to a few things that I think at least would need to be questioned, like the bug population collapses, the dead zones in the ocean, fishery collapse, and mass pollution. Maybe it's not overpopulation. We talked with Michael Malice about this. It may be overpollution or overdevelopment or something.
Exactly. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that last statement. My issue with the idea of this being an overpopulation issue, framing the narrative that way, is that you are, with that framing, indicating what the solution has to be in your mind, so it's circular. If you say we have an overpopulation problem, then what you're effectively saying is the solution is for there to be less people.
Right.
But if you point out the way you did that there are issues such as insect populations declining, if that's the case, or pollution, then we ask the question, how can we deal with these problems? And there's no reason to believe the solution is to get rid of people or have less people.
I agree with that 100%. I think the solution is actually better agricultural technology and development. I believe it is culture. I think the United States has cultural problems. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we have a culture of gluttony instead of responsibility.
Amen.
I think
that is a problem.
Absolutely. So you have people who are morbidly obese, and instead of being like, maybe I should consume less, they're like, this is fine, actually.
Beautiful.
Let's get on the cover of a magazine and tell everyone else to live this way too.
I think we have a parenting problem as well, because
Agreed.
I think that parents don't teach their children to be responsible either for themselves or for others. And I think that is a key thing to do. Like, children, stop worrying about what college your kids are going to go to or what career they're going to have, and instead teach your kids to grow up to be kind, responsible people who can take care of themselves and the people that they love.
And who also want to. I think that's what's so
and find joy in
insidious.
it. Find joy in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a post not long ago, and you see a lot of this from people saying things like, so much of our life is dedicated to work. And I do believe that at some point people can be overworked 100%, and that's a problem. But they were saying things along the lines of, the only thing meaningful about my life is when I'm off work. And I think a lot of that is, firstly, an issue with the kinds of jobs people have now. There's a good argument to be made for that. But also that no one finds any value in the service of others, and people don't take any pride in doing things that make other people's lives easier.
But the other thing, too, is that we have completely diminished the value of just doing work.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if there's a job worth doing, and this is cliche, but there's a reason it's cliche. If there's a job worth doing, it's worth doing as well as you possibly can. Yeah. There was recently, I forget what it was, but sometimes there'll be like an article at work and I'm going to be writing it at Post Millennial. And sometimes I think like, I don't really feel like writing this. And then I think, okay, if you don't feel like writing it, clearly you're missing something. Clearly you're missing some aspect of this story. Go figure it out. Do some research, investigate it, find out the interesting part of it, and then write it. And whenever that happens, oddly, those end up being my best pieces. The ones where I'm not sure at first and I'm just kind of like, and then I dig into it and I'm like, oh, well, that's actually fascinating. And now I have a great piece.
We were talking about trans issues a moment ago, so I wanted to hold off because we have a story here actually. This is a tweet from Colin Wright, good friend of the show, and it's actually just a repost of an Instagram post from a female amateur skateboarder. He says, female skateboarder Taylor Silverman is speaking out after placing second to a male competitor who identifies as a woman at the Red Bull Cornerstone contest. Silverman and other female skateboarders were robbed of their achievements and prize money that was meant for women. In the post made on Instagram, Taylor Silverman said, "My name is Taylor Silverman. I am a female athlete. I've been skateboarding for 11 years and competing for several years. I have been in 3 different contests with trans women, 2 of which I placed second, and the last contest series I did for Red Bull, I placed second. The trans competitor who won took $1,000 in the qualifiers, $3,000 in finals, and $1,000 in best trick. This totaled $5,000 of the prize money meant for female athletes. I took $1,000 in qualifiers and $1,750 for second place, so $2,750 in total. The girl who took third received $750. The girl who deserved $1,000 for best trick took nothing, along with whoever would have placed third. I deserved to place first, be acknowledged for my win, and get paid. I reached out to Red Bull and was ignored. I am sick of being bullied into silence. In the next post, Taylor Silverman posted the email sent to Red Bull saying, "Hope all is well with you. I am reaching out in hopes of being directed to the right person to express my concerns about what occurred at the Red Bull Cornerstone contest with the transgender competitor in the women's division. Perhaps that is you. If not, hopefully you can put me in contact with the correct person. A biological man with a clear advantage won the women's division, best trick, and also multiple qualifiers. This took away the opportunity that was meant for women to place and earn money. What happened was unfair, and at the time, I was too uncomfortable to speak up. I understand that in today's society, even some women think this is acceptable, but I believe in doing the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing. I now realize it's really important for me to speak up, and I'd like to schedule a time to talk." So I have announced that I got my math wrong, but I have announced. I said Timcast will gladly cover the difference and grant Taylor Silverman the $2,250 difference lost to placing behind a male athlete. We will also be willing to cover the total lost revenue for the female athletes who would have placed higher were it not for the male athlete. Now, she didn't lose $2,250. She lost $1,250 because she didn't win best trick. Someone else, I guess you said, would have. And so some people have asked me, they said, you know, Tim, you said that the NCAA women, you know, it's too bad for them or whatever. And I was like, no, hold on. What I said was...
You mean the swimming?
The swimming. I said they are not complaining about it. How can I speak up for them if they're not speaking up for themselves? Taylor Silverman spoke up for herself, said, I don't believe this is fair, and I believe that's deserving of support. And also, totally biased. Mm-hmm. I've been skateboarding my whole life. I had worked with the organization, briefly, mind you, that actually got equal pay for women at the X Games. We've talked about it quite a bit. When I saw this, knowing what I know from skateboarding for, what am I going on, 23 years, knowing about the physical elements, knowing about the physics, Taylor Silverman is absolutely correct. And let me make this point before we get into the bigger picture. Some people have said, in response to me, we had our good friend, the Amazing Atheist, said women should compete in the women's division. I responded to Colin Wright saying that males, have a higher center of gravity. What this means is that from a standing position, a male can ollie higher than a female. Females carry their center of gravity lower, which is better for balance in a lot of ways, but means their ollie height, their jump height will be lower. There are very clear differences and advantages that males will have regardless of hormone replacement therapy. Skateboarding is not a muscle-based sport where it's like the stronger you are, the better you can be. There's aggression, there's grit, like your willingness to take risks, and it's very much control. If you have a higher center of gravity, you're going to be able to clear higher obstacles. Women also have what's called a more pronounced Q angle. That's the quadricep angle, meaning because of the wide hips, the femur and the quadriceps come at a harsher angle than a male would, regardless of hormone replacement therapy. This means that biological females competing at any stage are going to be more prone to leg injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries. A clear advantage for male athletes, regardless of if they're transitioning or not. So this one, to me, I think needs, I'm biased, obviously, but also the story's gone viral. Everybody's talking about it. I think it's important to talk about, and I think it's important that people like Taylor Silverman are speaking out and saying, I think this is not fair. Now, the crazy element is her post on Instagram has something like, the last I checked, 11,000 comments.
Yeah, it's huge.
The anti-Semitism, because Taylor Silverman's Jewish.
Right.
Crazy.
And she has a Star of David in her
right,
bio.
And these are the leftists who hate Israel, who believe in these weird conspiracy theories, like the Farrakhan stuff, and are now going after her and attacking her for being Jewish, simply because she said this is money that was meant for female athletes.
Yeah, I mean, look, the left doesn't care about these things that they claim to when they talk about like racism, sexism, homophobia. In fact, despite their vitriol, they don't even really care about the transgender issue. They just try to use these labels to accuse anyone they think it would be useful to get out of the public discussion. And when it comes to their attacks on other people, they're almost always willing to resort to these labels, but it's never talked about, right? So it's an instance of creating a rule surrounding certain language about ethnicities like slurs, and then saying we are only going to prosecute one group of people for doing this. So people on the left can get away with it like crazy.
I think they also wanted to figure out how to make sure that white men could be qualified as diversity hires.
I think stories like these are the biggest threat to so-called trans rights, because at this point, when you get into the sports and physically comparing the two, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
So I know for a lot of people, they think live and let live. If somebody's above 18, let them go through the process. If they want to get these plastic surgeries to make them look like the opposite sex, fine, it's not hurting anybody. But then once you get down to something like a competition where the differences are obvious, we're going to be seeing more and more cases like this.
Well, and
like Leah Thomas, for example.
And women's
aren't
rights
one-offs.
activists know about this. Women's rights activists can clearly see that showing the unfairness of men competing against women in women's sports could be the turning point needed.
I want to give a shout out real quick to Taylor Silverman. You can follow her on Instagram, Taylor May Silverman, and on Twitter, I believe her Twitter is TM Silverman, but specifically because she posted on Instagram this: "Truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth."
Many people in her position didn't stand. Like for the Leah Thomas, there was no woman who actually stood up.
Only
so
the
you
one who
commend her.
lost.
Yeah,
So this is another interesting thing. Taylor spoke up. I believe it's been a few months since the event, and I actually talked to her. We're maybe working something out, some kind of we'll do an interview or maybe. But it's been a few months actually since the contest, and I looked at her record. She's somebody who actually won, actually got cash. She got second place. She qualifies. She's winning. When it came to the NCAA swim meet, the only person who spoke up was the one who got bumped.
Like in 8th place or whatever it was.
It was like, what was it, 17th or something, 16th place or something?
By the way, I've made a decision.
And it wasn't even her. It was actually her teammate who spoke up on her behalf.
Oh, wow.
I am going to start calling all of the people who want men dressed as women to compete in women's sports men's rights activists.
Yes.
They are men's rights activists.
If
And
you
will
say
be
that like, a
adopting,
trans woman should be able to compete in women's sports, you are an MRA.
And you will be adopting the language of radical feminists when you do it. And
That's right,
bravo,
those TERFs.
bravo, Seamus.
Look, when women
Wait,
talk,
hold
I
on.
listen.
Didn't we talk to
Believe all
Vosh about
women.
that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked about men's rights activism.
I wasn't
I said I don't care for using the word men or women. I'll just say male. So when I tweeted this, we had was it, T.J. Kirk is his name, right? The Amazing Atheist.
Yeah, T.J. Kirk.
He said women should compete in the women's division, and then it's absurd to me that you're having a semantic argument. For what reason did we create women's division sports? Was it because sometimes people wear dresses? No, it's because there are biological differences to a great 90% of the time, to a great degree, between males and females. And the colloquial understanding in human society was that man and woman meant male and female. In fact, to most people today, it still does. So when someone says a trans woman is a woman, therefore should compete in the women's division, it's like, we didn't create the women's division based on the clothing you wear.
No. We didn't create the women's division based on how you felt that day. Like, oh, today I've decided I mean, what if someone's gender fluid? And I'm serious. That's not just like a dunk on the lips. What if someone is gender fluid? On the day they feel like a woman, do they compete in the women's division?
The answer would be yes. There's actually a CEO in the UK who
makes 70 cents less per dollar when they identify as a woman that day?
No.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I believe it's a CEO who is gender fluid and some days wears pencil skirts and some days wears trousers and was honored as best woman CEO or something like that.
So playing both sides
for the day when he was in the pencil skirt.
One of the difficulties for anyone to speak up is that they're speaking out against people they know. And that's a big component that I think a lot of people should understand. So I know many pro skateboarders. For years, I have been told by many pro skateboarders they're upset with what's happening. They're upset with politics. Many secretly support Trump. And they all say, but I cannot risk my livelihood to speak out. And so, exactly.
Well, this is the
Don't
thing.
come to me. But I will say, I wanted to add something to this. There is an issue at play here, and it is a pro skateboarder that I have met and skated with on a couple occasions, who's friends with people I know, named Leo Baker. Leo Baker is a non-binary, I believe, formerly I believe trans man, and before that was a top female athlete named Lacey Baker. And I mean no disrespect, but I have questions, and that question is, when Leo was competing as a female in the women's division as Lacey Baker and winning, Lacey transitions into Leo, says that they're trans, but continues to compete against women. So my problem is, who is coming out and saying that Taylor Silverman is wrong when she says this? Why is it that a biological male can say that they now identify as a woman and compete against women, but a biological female can say, I am now trans, but still compete against women?
It's because everyone knows that it's fake. Everyone is aware of the lie, and we're supposed to just deal with the fact that we know it's a lie and say something that is untrue, which is exactly what happens, which is literally what happens in the book 1984, is that you're supposed to know that, you believe the truth and you speak the lie. And that is the most dangerous aspect of this.
What I want to add to, sorry, just because when I saw this story, I saw Colin Wright's tweet that Taylor spoke out. That's, look, Taylor is not somebody who is a prominent pro skateboarder with millions of followers who can risk speaking out and be rich. These pro skateboarders who tell me they can't speak out, I'm like, you own how many houses? You have how many followers? You'd lose half of them. You'd still be rich. Or at the very least, you'd be middle class.
Well, J.K. Rowling speaks out. She's spoken.
Exactly.
She's said that she has lost opportunities. She keeps speaking out. She keeps being active for women's rights. And I have the utmost respect for that. I have the utmost respect for Miss Silverman here. And I hope that, you guys work out a great situation. And that she's able to be, continue being successful in her chosen path. We all know that it's unreasonable. When we saw Leah Thomas swimming in the pool against women, we could all see that it was completely a total lie that this person should be competing against these much shorter, much smaller, much less strong women. And we were just supposed to go along with it anyway. And people did. And it's shocking to see that. And I think that the more this happens and the more we see women athletes start to speak out, the more hopefully the tide will shift on this. And, Beth Stelzer, who does Save Women's Sports, who's a really fascinating person who saw this happen in weightlifting, she's been fierce and fighting on this.
I think the key thing you said there is women, and it needs to come from women. And that's why I think Taylor May is so commendable here, because if it doesn't come from women, I mean, men could bark about this all they want, but it's women who are the victims and are missing the opportunities because of this. So they, unfortunately, in our society, need to be the most vocal about it because people don't like listening to men.
So I'll address one super chat, and they're saying that I complained that the swimmers didn't speak up until after they had lost. So let's break this down. First, is Tim biased? Yes, obviously. I'm a skateboarder. I've been skateboarding for 23 years. So, of course, I see this story and I'm like, oh, harumph, how dare they? But there is a difference. With the NCAA, they had been consistently competing. They knew it was happening. They knew it was going to happen. They had swam more than one time. There were multiple races. My understanding of this story, having dug into it and spoken with some people involved, when you go to a skateboarding contest, you don't know who you're competing against. They say, hey, there's going to be a contest in this place at this time. You go to a local qualifier, then you show up, and all of a sudden you see who you're competing against. My understanding is that this is not an instance that's exactly the same, where this person knew, I'm going to fly to this place and compete in this contest against a trans person. It was, they showed up and said, oh, really? Now, fair criticism. It did take Taylor a few months to speak out. And I think, you need to speak out sooner than that. But that's fine. I mean, look, man, I can be angry and critical. And I think the fact that she was second place, won cash, could have walked away with the cash, not as much cash as she wanted. But instead, she's like, no, I've got to say something about this. Because the woman who got bumped out of the bracket isn't speaking up. Like with the NCAA, the woman who got bumped from the bracket was the one who spoke out. And I said, you're only speaking out because you lost the money? Well, in this instance, the person who got bumped didn't speak out, and the person who did get the money is the one speaking out. And I'm like, okay. But either way,
I gotta say, I love
speaking
that I love that they came for your sport, and you were just like, no, that's it. I'm not doing
Then
it.
they
I
came
love
for
it.
skateboarding.
I love it.
Right.
I
They
love
came
it.
for swimming, and I said nothing
Well,
because
like
I do not
that's
swim.
not true.
I think there's a fair
Yeah,
element
it
there.
really
Absolutely.
isn't.
I think.
But I
there's a
think
fair
that's
element.
great. I think that's great. You know, when you see it happen in your own stuff, I think it really makes a big difference. I saw this happen in theater when suddenly grants that were, because, you know, there were grants like women's plays. Only women should submit plays for this and, you know, proposals and whatever. And then the granting opportunities and the opportunities that had been specifically for women were suddenly for women or self-identified women. And I was like, what's this about? This is not reasonable. You know, it's not this is not for playwrights who are men in dresses. This is supposed to be for women playwrights. And everything changed. Everything changed very quickly. And that's why, you know, that's in part why I started speaking out about this, because I found that so infuriating and stupid.
It is infuriating, and it's not as if anyone could change the definition of woman. Like, men and women are different, but I do find it comical that women were never asked.
No, because only
Like,
men
they
get
were
to
literally
decide.
never asked. Dudes started wearing dresses and like this said, yeah, we're women. And it's like, do you have opinions about that? Like, yes, they're no, you're not allowed to. Like, you're not allowed.
Well, imagine
There was no
imagine
vote.
a situation.
There was no policy. There was no committee.
Imagine a situation where a 6 foot tall man in a dress with heels looks down at you and says, "I'm a woman."
I'm
You'd
a
be
woman.
like,
Are you going to say otherwise? You're
okay.
like, yeah, no, you're a woman.
Oh, sure. Okay. Don't
We
hurt me, Mr. Crazy Man.
We try to be
Yeah.
respectful to people who are, you know, we try to be respectful. As I mentioned often, even Ben Shapiro said he would use preferred pronouns in a public setting because it's just easier, though he doesn't agree with it, and wouldn't use it in an academic or a journalistic setting. We are the tolerant. We say, I may not like it, but, you know, I'm going to mind my own business. You know, you do your thing. And that's how gay marriage comes to pass. We're like, okay, look, you're gonna get your tax benefits. You can go into your home. You can do your thing. And then it's funny because there's that meme from 2000 and was it 2008, 12 or something, or 2000? Yeah, it was like, what happens if gay marriage becomes legalized? And it's like World War III will happen. People will start teaching kids about gay sex, and it's just like,
And here we are.
those things are happening.
That's what's going down.
Let's jump to this story though from the AP. U.S. soccer equalizes pay in milestone with women and men. They say the U.S. Soccer Federation reached a milestone agreement to pay its men and women teams equally, making the American national governing body the first in the sport to promise both sexes matching money.
Oh boy.
So this is why I think this is crazy.
Lydia.
They have different pay structures. They're different leagues. It would be like, imagine if Burger King announced that they were going to be paying McDonald's employees the same rates.
So my
Are they
question
bringing
is,
the men up or the women down?
They're-
Or the reverse?
Well,
They cut the men's salaries.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, all right, we're
but
cutting
so
funds.
are they taking funds that were generated by the men's division and giving them to the women's division? Because the women's division can't make enough to pay them what they pay the men.
Yes, I think that's what it is. So it says, U.S. women and men's team agree historic deal to share World Cup prize money. So
that is very insulting to the
they
people
will
who are
share?
generating
yeah,
that
look at
revenue.
this. So I think the AP was wrong. What the story is, at least from The Guardian, is that they're going to share each other's prize money with each other.
So are they saying that the women should be dependent upon men's money? I find that interesting.
So the men are going to be giving
Are men
up.
providers?
I guess
Yes.
so.
Apparently.
The men are going to give up a large, millions upon millions, and the female athletes are going to give up hundreds of thousands. Is that what's going to
So
happen?
why would men play for the U.S. team? Why wouldn't they just go play in Europe and make a lot of money and not play on the national team at all?
The interesting part about this is that the men's team is actually trash relative to other men's soccer teams, and our our female soccer team is one of the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
But our
but
men's
still
is
men's
bad.
soccer
Makes
generates
more money. Yeah,
money.
Exactly.
But it's number one, so if
Well,
we're
but
America first right now, then we should be rooting for our women's team. I mean,
Yeah,
But it's
root for them,
also-
but they're still generating less money. So why should they get more?
yeah, we should support them too. We should buy. What was her
I mean,
name?
if
The one
people
with the
wanna
purple
support
hair?
it, they
Rapinoe.
can,
You can
right?
buy
Who
a
knows
Where's
jersey?
your Rapinoe
I'm not
jersey,
gonna buy a
Elad?
Rapinoe
Like, where is
jersey.
it? Let's see it. Why aren't you dyeing your hair purple just to get like Megan Rapinoe?
I did
These
go to the
activists
parade
can
when they
watch.
won, though, in New York City.
Well,
There
that's
was
what
a
I gonna say.
parade.
Yeah, when they won a few years ago.
The people who
I
want to
didn't even know they did a
support
parade.
the people who want to support the women's team, like, they can watch. People can get invested in this without having to take from the men's team. And It's funny because you mentioned the men's team is not that good. I don't follow sports, but I've heard that. But it's not as if anyone's saying, well, we should be giving the trophies that the women win to the men's team because we just like men more. What we're saying is if a group of people earn a certain amount of money, they should get that amount of money. And if a group of people earns less than that, you don't redistribute it to make them feel better.
Well, it's a socialist soccer
especially
team,
when they're making
right?
money playing sports. They have a dream job. They're an athlete.
You do when you're a communist.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's a socialist soccer team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny.
Which makes sense because it is a European sport, right?
No one's
South American.
I love when the blue checkies journalists were like, the women actually win and the men don't, but the men are getting paid more money, and it's like the men negotiate a different pay structure. That was literally it.
Well, there's also different audiences.
There were bonuses or guarantees, and the women wanted guarantees, and the men wanted bonuses or something. Mm-hmm. So it's like the men got bonus money and made money, and the women didn't or something. But also, yeah, it's just like, imagine someone working at McDonald's. And they're like, this McDonald's makes $1 million per month. And then across the street is a Burger King that's only making like $500,000 per month. So the Burger King employees get angry and go on strike and say it's not fair that McDonald's employees get paid more than us. It's like, you're different businesses. I get you both sell cheeseburgers, but you're different businesses. So then they agree to share their salaries. Like, okay, sure, I guess.
So yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all either.
So if the men win, they have to give money to the women or something?
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be less incentivized to win. You're not making as much money.
I think they're
the
just
men's team's going to do even worse.
Less incentivized to play on this team.
So wait, hold on. Well, you said the men's team is really bad. So does that mean the men aren't going to win and aren't going to make money, and so the women's team isn't going to end up making this money from the men anyway?
I think it's more
MRAs.
People just care.
The people supporting the women here, they're men's rights activists who think
well,
men should be getting alimony.
What if we got trans women to fill the women's league instead?
But they would have to. I guess we could, right? That's
well,
a great
I'm
idea.
sorry. Are they trying to exclude trans women from their space?
So the issue that I had with the
the question is, are there any trans women on the women's soccer team? We don't even know that.
And if there aren't, it's clearly bigotry.
Obviously.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the argument from the left on this is, again, the Amazing Atheist tweeted at me that, tall people are better at basketball. We don't ban tall people. And it's like, okay, so then for what reason don't we just seek out only trans women to play in the WNBA who are going to be taller, or in women's soccer who are on average going to be substantially taller and have more bone density and muscle mass? The point I was bringing up with the skateboarding thing is that people like to mention strength. It's like in swimming, your strength matters. Your strength and endurance matters. And but in skateboarding, it doesn't. In skateboarding, it is control, it is timing. And the advantage of having a higher center of gravity, of having narrower hips, no matter what you do or change, that's not going to have an impact. I'm wondering if in these skate contests, I don't think they have any hormone requirement like some sport leagues do, where it's like your testosterone has to be a certain level, because that wouldn't matter anyway. In which case, my point is, are we going to come to the point where if the argument is based on gender as a social construct and not sex, then someone who's literally a 6'6", 250-pound muscular male could just be like, I'm a woman, like Zuby, right? When Zuby did the deadlift and said he was a woman, why not?
That should be completely permissible.
Under their ideology, yes.
Yes.
In which case, the women's, I gotta say, how about for women's soccer, we should get a bunch of males? And I'm not saying this disparagingly or as a gotcha or anything.
It's a real question.
I think you're just being inclusive, Tim.
Well, no. But in all seriousness, if the goal of the team is to win money, the goal of the team is to win contests, we want the brand to succeed and the coaches want the best team possible, then they should have open tryouts and just bring on the best possible people that there are. And if the team ends up being 90% trans women, we'll win more. Good, right?
I'm curious as to when we're going to see an actual big backlash from women on this actual issue as it becomes more common, because there aren't that many trans women in these sports yet. But as we continue to age, the youth, I think it's something like 20 to 30% of the youth nowadays considers themselves some form of LGBTQ.
Yeah, here's an issue though. There's a lot of problems with early medicalization for trans-identified youth, and this was sort of interesting. Recently, a mom reached out to me and hipped me to a talk that was given by Dr. Marcy Bowers at Duke University, who is trans and has performed some 2,000 trans surgeries. And
trans doctor performing the trans surgeries.
Right.
Okay.
And has performed these surgeries on young people, has also prescribed the puberty blocking drugs, the Lupron, as well as the cross-sex hormones. If a child goes on puberty blockers and then goes directly onto cross-sex hormones and does not go through natural puberty, they will never orgasm.
Yep.
They will never have full sexual function.
Or the emotional.
Aspect. Additionally, if you're a little boy and you go on a puberty blocker and then you start taking estrogen, you will never have enough genital material to be converted into the, wound that is then referred to as the neovagina. That will also not work. Additionally, if you are a young person and you start taking cross-sex hormones, you're going to have substantial problems with bone density. So the odds that blood coagulation, all of these things. So the odds that you're going to be able to play sports are remarkably small because you're just not going to have the physical capability to do that. So if a young man doesn't go through natural puberty, he's not going to be able to play against Megan Rapinoe.
Anyone who does that to a child belongs in jail.
I agree
I think
with
the
you.
Well, that's happening. In how many states now?
It's what is it? Florida. I think
Iowa, maybe.
Florida. There was Iowa.
Was it Oklahoma?
Texas. I know.
Yeah.
There's a couple of states where it's
Texas,
illegal
Texas
to do
announced
it.
they'll take the kids from the parents.
Right. And then they actually ended up investigating. It was Ken Paxton's office. And it was actually inspired by Libs of TikTok, which Libs of TikTok, I talked to her about it and she was like, that was amazing. Like I actually helped, But what was interesting is the Attorney General's office then found themselves investigating a parent who worked at Texas Social Services for medically transitioning their child.
I think one of the great lies, one of the big lies among trans activists, obviously beyond that men can actually become women and women can actually become men, is that these puberty blockers have no consequences and that we have fully studied their unintended consequences. We're right now giving puberty blockers that were supposed to be used to treat, I forgot what exact hormonal diseases, but we don't fully understand what these puberty blockers do when used in the case of gender dysphoria in children. It's not completely reversible.
There haven't been studies. And it's not completely reversible at all. There's not any
to say
reason
there are
to
consequences,
believe that it's reversible. There's
but this is the argument made to allow,
because also
to
once
walk that back.
once a child goes on those puberty Lupron, right, which is supposed to address precocious puberty, and then you take the child off. But in cases of healthy children, you go on it, they put you on it, and then you transition to cross-sex hormones. So you don't, and most kids who go on the puberty blockers do go on to take the cross-sex hormones because they're already believing it. So it's not a pause button, it's an initiation.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't exactly tell when somebody is going on hormone blockers, so it's hard to visibly see how many people are doing it. But what I do see as somebody who's from New York City, Brooklyn specifically, one of the most trans parts of the city, is that double mastectomies are relatively common. This isn't something that like you don't see or hear about from friends or see
you see it
people.
A bit.
Yeah, it's relatively common. And I think that too, convincing women that the right move, or whatever you're dealing with, interpersonal, women deal with a lot of issues mentally, going through puberty, etc. But to convince them to get double mastectomies, to remove their breasts, again, I think is comparable to modern day lobotomies.
Yeah,
and not just women, girls. I mean, it happens
children.
to people who are underage. It happens to girls.
I want to
just
kids.
If I may, just one thing. They talk about how they tell kids, if you're not comfortable in your own body, then perhaps you're trans. And I think it's important for people to realize that it's not really that normal to be comfortable in your own body. Like, bodies are super uncomfortable.
Especially during puberty.
And especially during puberty.
Puberty
sucks for everybody. Like, it feels weird and yucky to have your body change. I know personally, like, I was 18 before I realized that I should wear a bra, and it was my college roommate who was like, "You really need to do this," and I was like, "Ew, gross! I don't really want to be involved in this." Oh, you guys are all embarrassed. That's really cute.
I mean, I never realized to wear a bra.
I was
They never told
horrified.
me to.
I was
I didn't know
horrified.
18
I was
were
like,
supposed to.
I was horrified by being a grown woman. I was like, this is really uncomfortable.
For men, it's called the bro.
Right.
Bro,
You got to
is that
wear
a
it
thing?
when you're like
Right.
50.
Right. Isn't that, didn't Kramer do that on Seinfeld?
It was
He had,
no,
like,
it
a
was
whole-
George's dad.
That's right. That's
No,
right.
he wanted the Manzier. I
the
think.
Manzier, but he had teamed up with
Kramer.
Kramer.
Kramer wanted the bro.
That's right. Yeah.
He's like, no,
That's
and they
right.
were arguing about it. The
What's
bro.
real?
The bro. So let's throw it back to eugenics in the early 1900s. When we had Matt Binder on the show.
I like that segue.
Well, it's because it's the idea that progressives aren't always right. They
Yeah.
think they are. They think they always win, but it's not true. Seamus made a good point. He said every instance in U.S. history where someone has tried to deny personhood to another group of people, they've always lost. Something like that, right?
Yeah. And no group of people who has ever made the distinction between human and person and said it's technically a human but not a person has ever been on the right side of history when we examine
Right.
the situation later.
So you look back at eugenics, and we've done away with that. It's like a bad idea. Nobody likes that. Yet the tenets of it still exist. Like when we had Matt Bender on the show, he was saying he kept saying over and over again, if a baby was born with deformity or abnormality, you wouldn't be in favor of ending its life. And I'm like, no. And he was like shocked by that. And I'm like, I'm not into eugenics.
Right.
Like if a human being is born different, we want it to try and live.
What an ableist view that is. That you should abort
it's crazy, but
disabled children.
here's the issue. Genetic diversity is important to the health of any species. This is basic science. It's observable. If we start saying these traits are undesirable, where does it end? And I'm not going to, slippery slope. No, quite literally you have parents being like, oh, he's got a heart issue, perhaps. And they're going to look at the DNA and they're going to say, when he's in his 30s, he may experience this, so why don't you try again? Like, okay. And then you're going to move the needle more and more until at what point are you arguing that it's just designer babies? And at what point do you end up with a disease that primarily affects people with a specific gene, or specific cell receptor, and then all of a sudden it's like we didn't realize that homogenizing the gene pool was going to result in population collapse, but here we are. So I'm just like, you don't do that.
Also, well, Tim, I mean, the left has actually disproven the slippery slope. They showed us it's actually just a cliff. I mean, you go right over instantly.
We mentioned
just started falling.
aborting for whatever disabilities. I'm trying to look up the exact source because I remember this in the past, but what I'm reading right now from The Atlantic is that in Denmark, they actually do tests to see if the child does have Down syndrome.
Yep.
And according
Iceland,
to what I'm
too.
reading, it says nearly all expecting mothers choose to take the test. Of those who get a Down syndrome diagnosis, more than 95% choose to abort.
That's
so this
right.
isn't just some fantasy
They've
tale,
eliminated it in
scenario that we're talking about.
Iceland
This
as
is
well.
actually
Yeah.
happening.
The thing too is like
Eugenics.
you get to
Yeah.
decide, right? Like they have all of these because I was older when I had my son. I was like 35 when I was pregnant, and there's all these tests that they can give you that give you like if he's gonna have whatever. There's something about X's. I don't really know, but there were a ton of them, and they were like, oh, you need to take this and this and this, and I was like, why? And they were like, because it'll tell you if your child has a deformity, and I was like, I'm good.
Don't care.
I don't need any of that.
Right.
I think there is an
I'm
argument
cool
to
with
be
it,
made
you know.
about, I'm not saying abort children who have Down syndrome, but there is some version of a quality of life argument. But I do think the argument starts to become is where do you draw the line to where you abort a child? I'm not saying it's okay or not okay for Down syndrome, but if we keep moving the needle or the line, it's like, well, if your kid has diabetes, do we potentially want to abort him because
What
of
if
that?
they're short?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if they're short?
What if they're going to have male pattern baldness?
I hear
Real
like 2 out of 5 men do.
Right?
According to like a Roman ad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would
don't
be the
kill any of
end.
them ever.
The end of so many great and very important people.
That's right.
Right?
When all the parents would have to do is bestow a beanie upon them.
Exactly. That's exactly.
So
I gotta say, I like a beanie. So.
Lydia pulled up the story where it talks about what is this Prader-Willi syndrome, and it says studies have found its positive results are incorrect more than 90% of the time.
Yes,
Insanely
yes,
high
yes.
numbers.
I read about this. I think
Yeah.
we wrote about this a while back, and it is absolutely insane because the genetic testing is not always correct.
You want to talk about the
100%.
death penalty being wrong? What, 25% of the time? I want to talk about this test and why people.
I'm
abort
against
their
all of it.
babies.
I'm
Also-
against abortion. I'm against the death penalty.
Yep.
I'm against
There you go.
euthanasia.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
against
But
all of it.
This is an important point. Like when we're talking about the death penalty, there's an argument to be made. All right, well, like 75% of the time or whatever, that person's guilty, whether you agree with the death penalty or not, if the number is 25%. But whether a child has Down syndrome or not, they're innocent. It's wrong to kill them. So when
That's
people are
crazy.
horrified because they go, oh my gosh, all these children died who didn't even have the disease that I think it's okay to kill people with, they're getting it backwards. You just should not kill unborn children.
Yes.
When we were talking with Matt, he it was just man, it was kind of crazy when he was like, you said you would stand with those who wanted to ban abortion. And I was like, I said if my option was you who wants to legalize elective abortion at 9 months or standing with the people who would ban it, I will stand with the people who will ban it.
That's how, I
because
landed there
that
too.
reduces the amount of death.
Yes.
But he didn't understand, and he was like, you just want to ban abortion. It's like, no,
Well, but
I
that's
want
what they're
less
told.
people to
That's what
die.
they tell themselves they have to say.
Tim, it has to be, for a lot of the way some people view you, it has to be that black and white. That's why you have to be right wing in that dude's eyes.
It's so,
That's, you know.
But it was funny because it was like a progressive and a liberal arguing over abortion.
Yeah.
And the people who are watching who are conservative are like, these people are far left.
Everybody's insane.
I know, right? I'm pro-choice. And he was like, I asked him and he said that he thought the woman can choose to abort the baby at 9 months. And I'm like, that's not, you just deliver it. Like,
The people in
what
the
are you
middle
talking
always also get called the opposite of whatever side. So, for example, like if you're a 14-weeker, pro-lifers are calling you pro-choice, but pro-choicers are calling a 14-weeker relatively pro-life.
Oh, yeah.
Do they say
Yeah,
that?
definitely.
Right wing.
100%. Yeah.
Like,
if
I mean,
you're
come on,
not
you saw
up
it.
until 9 months, then
at
you're
the
essentially pro-life.
Look at the conversation we
eyes.
had with Matt.
Yeah, I mean, but I think like pro-life and pro-choice is a dichotomy, right? Like you're either in favor of legal abortion or you're against it. I realize that there are
Right.
some people who are in favor of it at different stages or against it at different stages, but like ultimately it's a binary. Like you're either okay with abortion or you're not.
That's why at timcast.com we say pro-abortion or anti-abortion.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like
Because
that.
pro-choice and pro-life are just stupid buzzwords.
It's
that nobody-
it's rhetoric.
like Matt says he's pro-choice, but not for men. So it's like
What do you mean he's not pro-choice for men?
women have the right to make a financial decision to kill a baby, but a man doesn't have a right to choose to abandon the baby. So if a woman is pregnant and she says, I can't afford this, she can terminate the pregnancy. It's her body. It's her choice. The man could also be broke, but he can't say, I would like to be, removed from financial responsibility and choose not to have a child.
So basically, he's infantilizing women.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, that's typically what the left does. They say that women aren't responsible for their choices. You're not responsible for having sex with somebody if you had too much to drink. That's on the man, even if the man had just as much to drink or
do you remember
more.
that poster?
Which one?
There was a poster that went up at school that went viral several years ago where it was like, have you both had too much to drink? Well, you're raping her.
That's right.
It's like, well, you're
remember that.
both drunk.
Seems
Like, we
fair.
You're both trashed,
Yeah,
bro.
it's all right.
Like,
especially, I think in Illinois.
But I think
this-
that's infantilizing.
In Illinois, the statute is that rape is specifically male on female, and women can't rape. Like, I don't think there's no law for it.
I mean, I guess women can rape. It's hard to imagine.
No, it happens.
It happens.
I mean, there was the story of that guy in the store where the woman force-fed him Viagra or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
But-
say generally it is harder for a woman to rape a man, but it definitely does happen.
does
and sexually assault from
But you guys-
women
There's
happen
actually-
towards
Yeah,
men.
like
Stop,
given their
stop,
definitions.
Guys, you're oversimplifying this. A guy can be sexually attracted to a woman and have a girlfriend and be like, I can't do this. And then she can still coerce him or force him. She can lean in his ear and say, I'll accuse you of doing something. I'll claim you hit me. She can spike his drink. There's a whole bunch of stuff women
There's
can do
also
to rape guys.
there's also been I think substantial number of cases where a female teacher has raped a
So
male
bad.
student.
So many cases.
Right.
You know, like if a male student is 15, you don't have a ton of control over your whole situation, and your teacher is 28 or 30 or whatever.
I think the
think
the
that
revelation
has
here
certainly
is
happened.
that
I was just reading an article about that today.
I think the real epiphany for all of us here is that women are obviously the real perpetrators the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. I knew that all along.
Or perhaps equality means that everyone is responsible for their own decisions and the outcomes and consequences of
Well,
those decisions.
When you talk to a
Maybe I
progressive,
read too much Camille Paglia. I don't know.
Oh my
when you
goodness.
talk to a progressive about abortion, they say, "Well, the man made his choice. He could have chosen not to have sex," and it's like, "But not the woman, huh?"
I've heard someone say that before. I once heard someone say that you can choose not to have sex in order to not get pregnant. Like this is they just I've said this before. At some point, left wingers just end up making right wing arguments, but in really inconsistent ways.
Right. That's what was confusing to me. I was like, I don't understand what your position is. Like, what are you opposed to and what do you support? And it's just you get these empty buzzwords. It's her decision. It's her choice. No matter how many times me and Seamus were basically talking about the baby's body. What if the baby's a girl? Is it her choice? Matt's answer was, it's the woman's choice. And it's like, the baby is alive and being born. It's the woman's choice. It's like, but he's like, it's her body. It's like, but what about the baby's body? It's like, it just right over the head.
Yeah.
There's no argument. You can't argue with someone who doesn't understand what you're talking about,
Makes it hard, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think we did have a very productive conversation with Jamie yesterday, and one point he made, and again, like, I mean, I very much enjoyed it. And by the way, I'll say this, and we appreciated, Matt coming on and being willing to have a conversation with us. And, I mentioned it was mostly with Tim. There was a couple moments I felt a need to interject. I didn't want it to be on two on one. There were a few times where I was like, all right, I have to jump in here because this is like blatantly incorrect and I need to say something. But what I really appreciated about Jamie is he clearly disagreed with me on the pro-life issue, but I felt as if his questions were very much in good faith and he was sort of curious about the perspective. And he said something which was, we're not really going to get anywhere with the dialogue if people like don't have faith that they can reason with the person they're talking to and they don't have some basic empathy and understanding for the other position.
People on the left.
And like by the way, I just want to say, empathy for it doesn't mean it's a good position, and I agree with it. Like I think it's completely abhorrent to believe in abortion, but also at the same time, like I think a lot of people believe in it because they just don't understand the issue that well.
How can you have a coherent political discussion with people who believe Jussie Smollett? You can't.
Yeah, that makes
can't
it
do it.
tough.
Like Taylor Lorenz can write every article in the world and people just like, they stare at it with drool coming out of their mouths. And it's like, maybe this person can't understand arguments.
It's so funny that you just mentioned Jussie Smollett because I just pulled up a post-millennial article saying, flashback, Dr. Oz pushed Jussie Smollett hate crime.
Yeah, that's
Is that
right.
true?
Yeah.
That's exactly
Well,
right.
I mean, to be fair, we all pushed it. We all came out the next day and released our public statements, didn't we?
We'll see if Dr. Oz ends up coming on top of it.
Dr. Oz also was like pro-transing kids and was pro-abortion
And that- and
prior
we
to
couldn't
like
get
10 minutes ago.
We couldn't get Sean Parnell?
I know, right?
Man,
Yeah, that's crazy.
Have they called it for who's going to win that?
I don't know yet.
it doesn't matter.
McCormick versus Oz?
I don't think they called it yet, but I wanted to mention something about Dr. Oz.
Fetterman?
I covered the Pennsylvania rally. I was asking people, is Dr. Oz America first? Most people said no. One person that I spoke to said Dr. Oz is the kind of guy who's supported by like Oprah Winfrey, and like that's why he doesn't like him. And then I responded to him, like Trump also supports him, and Oprah originally supported Trump too. Like I'm old enough to remember when Oprah Winfrey supported Trump's initially when Trump started running.
Wasn't Hannity like the Trump whisperer for Oz? It was so it was so weird to so many people why Oz got that endorsement.
It's interesting. We're seeing like this celebritification. I don't know if we're seeing it more. I'm just paying more attention. But there was Trump originally. There's Dr. Oz. There's also, I forgot, the superstar football player, college football player in Georgia who's running for Senate.
I don't remember either.
He has the gay son who's a conservative activist too. Walker.
Herschel
Walker. Yeah.
Okay.
He's running for Senate, I believe, too, in Georgia. So it's interesting that we're seeing the celebrification, more celebrities throwing their hands in the races
Although we
and coming
saw
out on
that
top.
we saw that with Ronald Reagan. I mean, he was a famous Hollywood actor.
All right.
And you can't
If you
get
haven't
more
already,
famous than JFK.
Smash that like button. Would you kindly smash that like button? Subscribe to this channel. Share the show if you do like it. Head over to timcast.com. Become a member. We're going to have that members segment coming up at 11 p.m. tonight. And what am I missing? Oh, yeah. Get your super chats, and we're going to read some super chats right now. All right. Gertius Maximus says, Project Veritas presents To Catch a Redditor. Aha.
That's nice.
That's actually hilarious.
Great.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a seat over there?
El Guapo says, good to see Libby back on Timcast. She is such a breath of fresh air. She is so intelligent, well-spoken, and absolutely beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Thank you.
I
Very
agree.
kind.
I agree with that guy.
Aw, you guys.
Rilo says, ending Disinfo board is evidence. They put the cart before the horse. Government can only restrict government speech, so how the F could they run midterm Spygate scandals with a board tasked with stopping Disinfo? That is funny. They just shut it down because they realized their only ability was to call out their own lies. They're like, wait a minute, it's going to stop us from lying. Get rid of it.
They were like way too busy fact-checking Joe Biden.
They fact-checked Joe Biden, and then they're like, wait a minute, the only thing we're allowed to say is that Joe Biden lied?
Wait a second.
Andrew Irvin says Postmillennial is reporting that 76 brand gas stations are preparing for $10 a gallon gas and that gas stations in the Tri-Cities are running out of gas.
Yeah, that's Katie Davis Court's reporting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we saw
Out
it the
of
other day.
Yeah, we pulled it up and didn't get to it last night.
We
it
should
was really
maybe
interesting.
we'll talk about it in after show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lunderwear says, do a Project Veritas skit like Mission Impossible. Dossiers on Twitter that self-destruct and 3D printed masks for O'Keefe. Oh, yeah. True Hello says, so you think suspended is code word for slipping with a black budget program outside of the purview of public congressional hearings? That was the joke, that when they're like, we're suspending the program, and then all the journalists write it down and say, all right, and they leave, they turn around and the general's like, your budget's being increased.
Well, the other thing, too, is there was supposed to be a Senate hearing, and it was canceled.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Disinformation Governance Board hearing was canceled because of all of the disinformation surrounding the Disinformation Governance Board.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amber Bird says, I can't ignore the timeline of the Disinformation Board shutting down as Bezos says Biden needs to be fact-checked by the Disinformation Board. Yup.
Yeah, that was funny, too.
I think they realized what that meant. I think that people were there. You've got a government agency. There's going to be lawsuits, and then they're going to be forced to be like, yeah, Joe Biden lied about this, lied about this, lied about this.
And so did Nina Jankowicz, and so did Jen Psaki. They all lied.
I think it's funny that
about the same things over and over again.
We joke that the Department of Defense is actually the Department of Offense.
Nice.
But then with the Disinformation Board, it's like, why would we assume they're stopping disinformation? You know, if you go to an ice cream shop, are you assuming the guy who's there is trying to stop people from getting ice cream, or he's trying to give the ice cream out? So, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
there?
good point.
Andrew Petra says, if you haven't watched the Army's new recruiting video for its psychological operations career field, you need to. Really weird and creepy stuff. Ooh, someone pull that up. Let's
Did it
check that
say
out.
you have to have 2 moms? Is this?
Yeah.
No, that was the Navy, right?
No, that was the Army.
Oh, that was the Army.
Yeah.
That was the Army.
So, well, but a lot
And
of
you
people
had to be neurodivergent.
So the
Yeah,
Army
as
had
well.
the ad about 2 moms, and you know we all talk about it. But
And Russia started shaking in their boots, and so did China when they
some
saw
people
it.
told me that the Army is very administrative, so that's what they were targeting. You know, people to work and file paperwork.
Oh.
The ad for the Marines was a guy who was in a swamp with a rifle, like you know, going through the trees or whatever. All right, let's grab some more. Seriously, JK says, last night's James O'Keefe undercover running gag was quite possibly the funniest string of jokes and ideas I've seen in a long time. Thanks, guys. And we're going to do it. We came up with a really funny one afterwards that was Jamie being scared of getting canceled.
We can't spoil the whole thing.
Shouldn't spoil it?
No.
Oh,
If we're gonna
okay.
make it, they gotta see it.
Yeah, the ending was brilliant. It was a really good one. Yeah, all right. I won't spoil it.
Good stuff.
All right. Thomas just says, yeah, Tim and crew. All right. Very cool. Cole Kirkham says, Kirkham. Tim, I just traveled from Houston to Altoona. I'm a traveling tower climber. I'm up here for work. I'd love to meet up with someone about possibilities on joining the team. I don't know what we have right now, especially for a tower climber, good sir. We're looking for journalists. That's so hard to find. Writers, specifically. People who write, difficult. Everybody's getting poached up and whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to find writers.
All right, there are a lot of super chats directed at Libby.
Weird.
They're saying that Libby is a good mother.
Oh my God.
We'll just
I knew I shouldn't have worn this dress.
we'll just leave it there.
Just leave it.
I even asked Lydia before we went on. I was like, I don't know about this dress, yo.
They're all just saying you're a great mother.
Uh-huh.
That's right. Yeah.
That's very, very
Yep.
kind.
Yeah.
JH says, I'm late to the party on this one, but everyone needs to watch the creepy line on Prime Video. Very interesting documentary from 2018 on election manipulation via big tech. Was that the Democrat one?
I don't know.
Remember the Democrats put together something? They were like really concerned about voter manipulation through voting machines back in 2018.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That does sound right.
Okay. Smedley Butler III says, inflation is an increase of the currency supply, devaluing the currency's purchasing power, which raises prices. The one and only culprit behind this is a printing machine and its family owners. Oh, oh man, the chat is going off.
Woo.
What is everyone saying? They're just saying, good mother, Libby.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's what I'm
God.
saying. Yeah, it's very complimentary.
There's a lot of super chats.
Thanks, Libby. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
Some of these super chats are inappropriate. Some of them aren't.
Why? Come on, chat. Get it together.
You guys made Libby put on a shirt. So we got some big super chats. I'm not going to read that.
Oh my.
It's my own fault for buying a new dress
Darn
and
it,
thinking I should
Libby.
wear it in public.
Sorry.
Michael
Really?
Tuff says, Seamus, please shame everyone in the chat.
Seamus,
Yeah, that's-
get on it. For
seriously.
shame. For shame.
Here's one. Stronger says, Libby is looking very pretty tonight. Seamus is okay.
Oh,
You.
wow.
I think it's very- I'm glad someone thought I looked nice. It was very
Right.
kind
I like
of
the
you.
purple shirt.
Thank
It's
you
nice.
very
It's
much.
good,
You
yeah.
know, I need to do laundry.
It's good color
This
on you,
means.
Matthew Reckham says, Kamala is an android that runs on a predictive text AI. Change my mind. I
yeah,
know. It's
sounds
really
like it.
funny. Did you ever do one of those tweets where you just press the middle predictive text
Yeah.
and then just like put it out there? That's what you read that and you're like, that does sound like a Kamala
Yeah,
speech.
it does, yeah.
Did you see her thing about working together?
No, it wasn't.
She,
No.
okay, I'm going to find it. You can keep going.
By
I'm
the
going
way-
to find it.
There was and I want to mention about Democrats. There was a poll from The Economist / it was a YouGov poll in The Economist that said, and this was in 2016, that around 50% of Democrats agreed that Russia tampered with vote tallies in order to get Donald Trump elected president. When you mentioned
what?
voting, when you mentioned hacked voting machines, I wanted to bring that up.
Say it one more time.
50. So it's a YouGov poll that said
People
about
believe it.
50% of Democrats believed in 2016
Oh,
that voting
wow.
machines were actually hacked, or that Russia tampered with tallies in order to get Trump elected.
There was a story, I think it was Newsweek, that half of the population of the country believes the country is being run by a secret organization they don't know. They don't know who it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
But I think the scarier thing is that half the people don't think that's true.
They should.
No, because I think when you read that, your assumption is they believe in the Illuminati. When in reality, they're like, oh, there's probably like big pharmaceutical, big lobbyists who are doing things we don't know about. And that's actually the reasonable position.
But it's also what literally everyone argues, right? Because the right will argue things about like there being a deep state or corporate America having too much control. The left will argue similar things about corporate America. Used to argue similar things about the deep state. And they'll also say things like, well, this X, Y, and Z is a threat to our democracy. The people aren't actually in control here. So I don't know why that's considered like an insane conspiracy theory. It's pretty mainstream to not think the government's truly being run fairly.
We got a good one here. John Harrell says BlackRock Neurotech is making their own brain implant. Maybe Musk is making his as an alternative to theirs. Look up the Brain Initiative. So when you have two billionaires or a massive multinational corporation and a billionaire, both looking at you saying, implant my thing into your brain. I'm the good guy.
No.
What you're supposed to do is ask the other one, what the other would say, and then do the opposite. Do you guys know the riddle
Yeah.
about there's two brothers
Yeah,
and
yeah,
one always
yeah.
lies?
Yeah,
and one-
yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
you-
the Doors, right?
Right, you ask the other one,
Yeah.
and then do what the other one tells you to do.
But I have the Kamala thing. If you want to see it.
It's
Oh, yeah,
great.
what is it?
It's pretty good. You
How do
have to
I-
read it.
how do I
think
show
you
it
can
to
read
you?
Well, just read
It's
it, just
good.
read it.
Yeah.
She said, we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work, operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together
Oh
on.
my gosh.
She said that.
What?
That's
She
a
said that.
predictive text AI.
That's what she said.
Yeah, it
function.
is.
That's
Yeah.
what she said.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like when it gets stuck in a loop and it keeps giving you the same word over and
Keep
over
pushing
again.
the same
Right.
button. Yeah.
That's happened to me before.
Yeah.
Where
Really?
like
But she said it out loud. I mean, is someone like pressing
no,
predictive
no.
text in
You-
Kamala's brain? Is
No, you
that
don't
what's going on?
understand. She's reading a teleprompter. The person
Is that what
writing
it
the
is?
teleprompter
I don't
has
think she
predictive
is.
text. They're using T9.
I don't know what's going on with that, but
there's like
she actually said that everything she says makes no sense at all. And the fact, like, the only thing that is keeping people from trying to get Biden out of office is knowing that we would get her
Oh, gosh.
instead.
I know, right?
you'll get like a predictive text loop where you'll write I went to the movies, and what'll come up, it'll say and you'll hit it. And then I went to the movies, and then I went to the
Yes.
movies, and then
That's a Kamala Harris speech. That's how she writes her
right.
speeches.
she's like, hi everybody, so I went to my family's house, and then I went to the movies, and then I went to the movies, and then I went to the movies.
And at the movies, I watched the movies.
Yeah.
I watched a movie at the on the
correct.
film screen.
There was a screen, there was a big screen, and there was a small chair. And we
Yeah.
sat in the small chair and watched the big
That's
screen.
right.
We didn't
Have
sit
you
in the
ever
same
seen-
chair.
have
We
you
sat
seen
in
the-
separate chairs.
Inspired.
Have you seen the Family Guy where Lois Griffin is doing the political debate?
Oh my gosh.
No.
yeah.
And they're like, how would you deal with the growing financial crisis? And she goes, 9/11. And they go, woo,
That's
clapping. And then, they ask her another question. She goes, 9,
That's right.
11. Ah! And they're all screaming.
So good.
That's, maybe she knows something we don't know. Maybe. Or what if?
Maybe she knows 9/11.
What if it's like half the country's been taken over by robots, and the robots are speaking clearly to each other, and we are laughing at them, thinking we're so smart. and they're
You're
taking
just
over.
not smart enough.
What was that
Well,
movie?
you know
with
that,
Put on
like-
the glasses. Put on the glasses, man.
They live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all James O'Keefe.
Yeah.
We have
The
yeah.
glasses
They're
on.
all James
Everyone is
O'Keefe.
actually James O'Keefe. Didn't someone chat that in last night? It's like
Yeah,
a joke.
yeah.
Yeah.
Doing a spoof where it's a guy, he puts his glasses on, then he can see all the James
They're
O'Keefes
everywhere.
I don't know if it's a good or bad thing that people are gonna like. If every person at every tech company now thinks they could be getting hit by James O'Keefe, imagine the relationship problems they're gonna have. There's gonna be an engineer at YouTube who meets like this amazing woman, and they're gonna have all the same interests, and he's gonna be like, "It's James O'Keefe."
I can't.
And it's-
amazing.
And she's gonna be like, I'm not. And he's gonna be like, I don't believe you.
No, everyone should have background checks on every
Yes.
date that they have.
But seriously though, imagine that. Like, imagine in real life a guy, meets this beautiful woman organically, and he just gets terrified, and then he stops answering the phone, and then she calls one day, and she's like, "You stopped answering the phone." He's like, "You're James O'Keefe," and like hangs up, and she's like, "That was weird."
Well, or maybe these people, when they go out on dates, should not be trying to impress their prospective mates with
Spilling all the company secrets.
spilling their guts on
Like,
coming.
yeah,
coming
I know
Exactly.
it's our
Saying-
first date,
like-
but let me tell you about corporate malfeasance
Right.
I'm involved in.
I mean, stop breaking your NDA just because you're trying to
Yeah,
get
right.
laid.
Come
Like,
on,
come
man.
on.
It's insane. Also, but like the things they are spilling aren't even things that would impress a date. Like, I only work 4 hours a quarter. What? You're telling her you're lazy? Why would you say that on a first date?
Some of the questions are a little bit obvious too. Like when they keep probing, like I think there was one
I know.
person who she was
They're like,
like,
"Can I
"Yeah,
get-"
what do you think of Project Veritas, by the way?" And this guy was just completely clueless.
She's like, can I get that in writing?
Yeah.
No,
I
the
like
funniest part.
when the guy said Veritas.
Yes, exactly. The Project Veritas employee goes. He gives them info about the person being set up. Gives them info about Project Veritas that's on their phone. They're reading a corporate email, and the Project Veritas reporter goes, "Project Veritas." I was like, how obvious? How obvious are you gonna make it? Like, this is a
It's
cartoon.
like, remember when Homer tried getting Mr. Burns' mail? And he's like, "Hello, my name is Mr. Burns." Okay, Mr. Burns, your first name? I don't know. That's what it was like.
I will say this about the Veritas videos, though. They do leave me wanting a little. I know they heavily edit a lot of their dates, but I want to see the full dates
real.
with these guys. I
Oh,
want
the
to
whole
see.
thing?
I want to see
and
when they
from
looked
a
into their
third
eyes.
person.
and
I
said,
want to
love
see
you.
the very pretty Project Veritas girl that they
Oh,
definitely
but you
hired
can't-
with
you
the
can't
creepy
show her.
looking. Well, I'm
'Cause
assuming
she
they can only
needs
do
to-
one gig.
No, because they have to do more than one gig.
No,
I
that'd be
bet.
No,
dangerous.
They
do.
totally
They just
can.
don't
They
release
totally
the footage.
Of the girl, but then doesn't the guy know
Yes,
about
but-
the girl? And
Yeah, but not before
the guy's
them-
looking at
yeah.
her face.
yeah, but
the
he's gonna
girl-
try to reverse out her.
The
I bet the
girl
guy's
will-
not
no, no,
looking
no.
at her
The
face.
the girls will do multiple stings, and then they release the footage. Yeah. Let's read some more. We got Bogdanov says, "Tim, what happened to your members only comment section on your website? Why can't we comment anymore on your videos?" We will reveal more information in due time. We have to do some infrastructure work for comments. So we've got an announcement coming. I can't say too much, but we've when we switched over to Rumble, a lot of things had to change. We've got to build stuff. That's the easiest way to put it. But we're going to be implementing a bunch of infrastructure changes to avoid to become more resilient against censorship.
Wouldn't it be funny if
But-
you're like, I was just sick of what you guys had to say.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I was tired of arguing. No, we want comments. We're thinking of a bunch of ways we can do it, and we'll get it sorted. Okay, Joseph says, "I just put in an offer for a home on 2 acres in Minnesota for $200K. The home was built in '73. The deal's expensive and hard to find near jobs, but good going.
Congratulations.
That sounds really
Get some
cool.
get some
Yeah.
chickens,
Cool, yeah.
Nice.
Goats. Yeah.
Yeah, chickens and goats, and they'll hang out together. And sometimes it's funny, the chicken will ride the goat.
Yeah, that's
No
very
way,
cute.
really? That happens?
Chickens will jump
So
on
Do you
goats.
have goats?
We don't know.
Okay.
We're going to
All
get
right.
yeah, we'll
All
get some.
right.
Yeah, we are.
But there's
Wait
like
a minute. What's the channel? What are you gonna? What's gonna be the project with the goats riding chickens? Are we
Goat
gonna get to
gazebo?
see that?
Yeah,
well, it'll
yeah.
probably just be Chicken City, but there
Chicken
will be
City
goats
with
there
goats.
That's
Oh,
gonna
that's
be Goat
cool.
Township,
that's nice.
bro.
Too. Goat
Yeah.
Township.
Yeah.
Well, so long as the chickens outnumbers the goats, it's going to stay Chicken City.
But it
until
should-
they get
yeah.
enough goats, and then
point.
they're going to demographically.
But also, you already have the brand.
I don't know if this is a replacement theory.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna
a
say,
Chicken City
Chickens, right?
edition of replacement theory.
The
That's
chickens
great.
start getting freaking out.
The
and
chickens
then
are like, why are our eggs going to the goats? I don't
All the-
understand why they're like
Yeah.
sending the eggs
all
away.
the leghorns get really worried about it.
And then you're gonna have some great cheese too. Who are you gonna
For-
have come in to make some cheese?
The leghorn joke worked really well for people who know chickens, but for those that don't, they're all white chickens.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
so,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
And then we have like the Rhode Island Reds are like brown and white. So let's read some more super chats. Alexander Harold says, "First SC ever. kill someone in self-defense, you have to prove self-defense. So burden of proof for abortion, health, and rape would require investigation similar to self-defense. Thoughts? 4-year fan. That's actually interesting. If you were going to create an exemption for abortion in the case of rape, there would have to be an investigation, and they would have to be able to prove it, I guess.
But the left would never stand for that. I mean, firstly, they would
they
never
just
want
make
to
it up.
limit the number of abortions ever. But then I think their argument would be like, no, you never investigate into it because that would allow them a loophole for basically anyone to still be able to get an abortion so long as they said they were.
I think some of the most successful movements in the country are always trying to, they try to morph and live up to the ideals of the Constitution. So I think, the Civil Rights Movement did this, where they were arguing that all men, the Declaration of Independence said that all men are created equal, bestowed with unalienable rights by their creator. So I think pro-lifers, it would behoove them to make a similar type of argument.
What do you mean?
That babies have certain unalienable rights, and we need to live up to the values that are set in our Constitution. And then if we want to change that, well, we need amendments to do that. So,
Well, if you kill a pregnant woman and you kill her baby, do you get charged extra? I don't think you
I
do,
think
right?
sometimes you
double
do.
homicide. Yeah,
Do
it's
you?
considered
Depends.
double homicide.
Some
Scott
places.
Peterson, right?
I
Yeah.
can
Let
see
me double check
Lacey
that.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he
All
killed his wife and baby, right? Isn't
She
that
was
the-
pregnant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it depends
That's
on the
what I mean.
state.
Does it depend on how far too? Probably a little
Probably.
bit.
Yeah. All right. Bert USA.
Yep, hold on. Scott Peterson was convicted of killing his pregnant wife and their unborn baby.
Wow.
So
How
he
far
was
in?
sentenced
What
because
state?
of
What
the
state
child.
though? What state?
Wasn't that
I'm-
Massachusetts?
I don't
Tell
know.
me it was a blue state.
What state?
Actually don't.
If it was a
Interesting,
blue
yeah.
state, that'll be interesting.
I'm
It was
intrigued.
either Massachusetts or California.
Yeah.
Tell me it was before the heartbeat or after.
Yeah.
No,
I think it was
She was pretty
California, wasn't
pregnant.
it? Yeah.
There was a case like that in Massachusetts too, where the guy said that it was a black guy who came and carjacked them and killed his wife. So it was, on top of everything else, it was super racist.
All right. While Seamus figures that out, we got Bert USA Florbo says new case of monkeypox spotted in Massachusetts. The dude got it when in Canada. A little too close to the abominable snowman, if you ask me. Conspiracy? I think not. Monkeypox. What if there's a monkeypox pandemic?
What is monkeypox?
It's a disease you get. Sam says innovation competence is like other traits. It operates on a bell curve. While percentage stays the same, real numbers change and the far ends push out as numbers increase. So the highest potential ability increases with larger population. For example, the top 1% in 100 versus 100K. That's a really, really good point. When you have hundreds of millions of people, the bell curve will get wider because you have a higher chance of anomaly. So actually, it's an interesting way to think about it. If there's a 1 in a million athlete, but you only have 100 people, you're not going to see that amazing athlete. If you have a million people, you'll have 1 at the far end. So the bell curve actually will become wider. Ty Johnson says people want to be younger today because they were trapped inside, afraid of the outside as children due to tech and the parents wanting safety over childhood. Is that what it was?
Don't know. The Peterson case was in California.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
blue
in
state,
a
maybe.
one of the isn't California very pro-abortion?
Super pro-abortion.
Yeah.
They're so
Really?
pro-abortion that they don't even track how many abortions are performed in the state.
It's
Wow.
Schrodinger's
Isn't that right?
Abortion,
child,
yeah.
where it only counts if you want it to,
Exactly.
and when it's not
Yeah.
advantageous, it just doesn't count.
I was looking at this recently, and there are a number of states that don't report or record or keep data on how many on the racial breakdown of abortions.
So I'm pro-choice, but one of the most eye-opening statistics that I heard that was for many years in New York City, there were more black children aborted than were birthed, and it sounds
Whoa,
so
what?
outrageous.
New York
was
City.
in-
Exactly,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
sounds
true.
that
That is
outrageous.
correct.
Where you're just like, wait a minute, what?
2018.
I don't know if it was every year, but it was for some of the years, and to even have gotten close is kind of a crazy thing to
Mind-boggling.
conceptually, yeah.
Wow.
Margaret Sanger's dream come true.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
quite,
it
but-
was actually a lot. It was a lot of abortions performed in New York. It was like New York and Florida were at the top of abortions.
Yeah.
All right. We got Josh says,
you have
hope
that?
you guys are planning on doing another drinking game next time Biden has a State of the Union. That show was one of the best Timcast fam. You know what we need to do? We need to do it doesn't need to be the State of the Union. We should definitely do for any, big event or something. We got to bring Jamie back, Kilstein, and Lauren Southern.
Yes.
And then Lauren can have more of the Pappy in her paper cup. But that was hilarious. The show with Jamie was
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious. And so we'll just it'll be 2 hours of just laughing nonstop, and then everyone will have to go to the hospital from ruptured guts.
Yeah. He was. He brought a really good energy.
Yeah, it was fun. Really fun.
And Lauren did, when she poured the $1,000 whiskey in her paper cup and drank it a lot.
Wild.
It was very funny. Very funny. We enjoyed it very much.
Tim, you promised me you'd never invite her back.
Oh, she'll be back soon. Bailey
Sorry,
Ray
Seamus.
says, IMO, Silverman spoke up because skaters aren't in a bubble within their sport. They grew up in skate parks in the streets. Most parks have all walks of life. Skating will set you free. I agree with this. There are a lot of people who skate who are conservative. They just won't admit it. And that's the problem. Conservatives. Why are they so cowardly?
Yeah, if everyone just spoke up and spoke their mind, there wouldn't be any of this cancellation backlash nonsense.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the coalition is more of an anti-left than conservative. And
Yes.
the anti-left, and when I say anti-left, I'm going to talk about two specific issues. It's that men can become women and women can become men. It's kind of this gender ideology issue. And then it's also the defund the police stuff. Those are sort of one of their two big things on the
I haven't
left.
heard a lot about that lately. I haven't heard a lot about the defund the police.
Yeah,
stuff.
well, like a year ago.
you
Well,
think it's
let's
gonna come back?
not forget.
Because
Let's
BLM is not
forget
as
about-
popular.
It's because
Yeah.
BLM isn't as popular, and defund the police pulled horribly, and the Joe Biden administration, as well as Democrats, know that now after trialing it, so they have to run away from it more. But there's still the ideologues in the party who do believe that.
Well,
So-
and BLM turned out to be a whole bunch of grifters.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
still
absolutely.
it's
I'm
kind of
gonna-
an issue.
I'm going to give a wag of the finger to Fox News
Oh my.
because they are really misrepresenting the latest scandal. So they keep saying that Patrisse Cullors paid her baby's father and her
Baby
brother
daddy.
$970K and $840,000. Let me clarify that because I feel that's very misleading. There's an LLC that does an LLC run by her baby's father, does live production, and her brother runs a security company. Now, by all means, I think hiring your friends and family to do the jobs is a conflict of interest when you have all this money. But the idea that that money was compensation versus cost, that's what happens when Fox News says she paid her brother. It's like, no. Look, if her brother was doing security at his company, how many security guards did she hire? How much money did he really get? So maybe what really happened is she paid her brother $100 grand, which is still like, how should a nonprofit be hiring all of their friends and family? The live production thing, the one question I had was they spent $150,000 on a live stream. And I'm like, okay, now we're asking some questions. But Fox is making it seem like she's just giving the money straight to her brother to like do whatever he wants with. So he's getting a lot. The other thing too is if she was receiving more than $100,000, they would have to disclose that on the 990s. They did not because she probably wasn't. It doesn't mean she's not getting paid in other ways though. So
She also said that those 990s were triggering to have to fill them out.
Right.
That was funny.
oh no, people are gonna find out.
Oh,
we're
no.
yeah,
I
right.
have to do accounting.
All right, Rajesh says my humble she also said that she was flush with white guilt money.
Oh my.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
But I mean, she's right. Like, of course
correct,
she
yes.
was.
That's what
Why
it
is? I don't think that's a problem to say that. She is completely accurate.
All right. Rajesh says, my humble submission to the panel to reprioritize issues. First, dying microbes in soil leading to starvation in future. Hashtag save soil. Second, climate change, real or not, we need best practices to preserve life on this planet. Millionth priority, feminine men trying to get attention. I agree with the more responsible practices when it comes to maintaining the environment, all that stuff. My attitude is kind of like, I can't stand the Green New Deal because AOC was just like equity and social justice. And when I brought that up to, Matt, he's like, that's where it starts. That's the important thing to deal with the Green New Deal is minorities. And I was like, what does that have to do with wind turbines, dude? Like, I want energy sources that, don't generate carbon, like nuclear power. An amazing return on energy investment. Energy return on energy invested, and no carbon emissions. We're all happy, right? No, they don't want that either.
Yeah, also, I'll say this. We absolutely need to have a coherent understanding of sex in order for society to function because the family is the building block of society and sex is what creates families. And if we don't have a functioning society, we can't hope to solve any of the problems he's pointing out. So these issues are genuinely important.
Quickly on
Google has announced that they're very close to creating an AI with human intelligence. So perhaps we can just build people.
Quickly on the climate change
That's
issue.
going to go great.
I
just
believe
wanna-
in anthropomorphic climate change. That is to say that the humans are having some influence on the climate. But I also believe that we are scientific creatures and our continued understanding and new discoveries that we will run into is what's going to help us steer our way out of this. My issue with the Green New Deal is that it doesn't try to reduce carbon emissions. I don't think it tries to do any of that. It just tries to overthrow quote unquote capitalism and our current system. That is the goal of the Green New Deal. It's
Amen.
not not to
Yeah.
reduce emissions. It's
Yeah.
to try to force our way to use renewables that won't work well in our system. And then also like fund questionable things, because again, we paid like billions of dollars for these solar panels in China that never panned out. Now that we're just overlooking these costs. So the issue with the Green New Deal is that it's more about communism really and socialism, because that's what happens at these events, than actually trying to make a difference for the environment. Right now there's like like an island of plastic the size of Texas or even larger right now.
The
like
North Pacific garbage gyre.
So if any, like,
Sure
that
is
is
out
something that
there.
I'm genuinely concerned about. I studied biology. I care a lot about the environment. I've never heard anybody talk about how we're trying to deal with that. And that's something more tangible than
I
this
actually,
climate change
I
issue.
will say that I was with a theater company for a while, and we worked for a very long time on an art project that was about ocean pollution, ocean acidification, and the North Pacific garbage gyre. That's why I know all about it.
I do have a solution, though. I've thought a lot about this. So hear me out. What if we gave free healthcare to marginalized people?
Why?
Don't
For
we?
the
It'll make the
environment?
environment better,
For the
bro.
environment?
Come on.
Don't we?
It
do that
actually
already?
would make the environment worse because you'll produce more refuse. Like
just-
more medical waste.
But what we
and
really need to do is we need to pursue more nuclear energy.
Medicare. The
Yeah.
reason Medicare for all won't ever happen is because the Democrats will insist to make abortions included in healthcare, and also insist that all illegal immigrants also get healthcare. That's why this issue I don't think will ever move forward. I know that's a huge conversation.
What
I,
if-
th-
what-
I think it
I got
won't
an
move
idea.
forward because they want to keep using it as an issue that will never move forward.
Here's,
Well,
what,
just-
here's what we'll do. Geostationary orbital nuclear power stations that transmit energy wirelessly
How
down
can
to the
you-
surface.
How can you look like lightning?
Sounds like something from Elon Musk.
electromagnetic, an electromagnetic.
Is that a
large,
thing? I don't even know
Or
how that
laser or
works.
something. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Problem solved.
I'm with it.
Then
We
when it
could
melts
also
down,
have-
it just blows up in outer space.
And they keep taking nuclear power plants offline.
I got it, guys. A Dyson sphere around the sun.
You know, I speak
Problem
to
solved.
a lot of Green New Deal people, and they'll tell
What
me
about-
they're anti-nuclear openly, too.
No,
about
of course
a
they're
Tyson?
anti-nuclear because the boomers
what?
have convinced everyone that nuclear is going to kill everyone, and it's not.
Well, they're not
I mean,
really
it's-
there to solve the problem,
Right.
I think is the
I
larger
think that's
issue.
exactly
Yeah.
correct.
I've got one instead of a Dyson sphere. We'll put a Tyson sphere around the
Yeah,
sun.
it's just
and
a
what
lot
it
of
does
chicken.
is it like no a Tyson sphere like Neil deGrasse Tyson. It just
Oh,
like
that kind.
pedantically corrects you about things.
I thought you meant like
It's like,
Tyson
no, no, no,
chicken,
no,
and
no,
then
no,
we
no,
just
no,
get
no.
like a lot of chicken.
It's like the
because
sun
it's that
powers
close
it.
to the.
Yeah,
It'll
the-
cook
Alright.
chicken really fast.
We'll just read a couple more here.
Sorry.
Ants Honey says, "You can't fool me, James O'Keefe. What have you done with Libby?"
I admit it, it's me. I'm about to break out in song.
We need to have James on at one point to just have that happen with like Lauren will be here. And then while we're talking, we're like, wait a minute, that's not Lauren Southern. And then we'll have James jump in and say,
Right? That would be brilliant.
James in a wig like jumps in, poorly disguised as Lauren.
it was James the whole time. There's a funny meme that Seamus, you tweeted and I saw it. Someone, Wolf's Bane, 1104 made it. And it's the crazy hot axis. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, you know, a woman who's like really crazy and kind of hot you stay away from, but like a woman who's like hot and not that crazy you marry. And then normally it says not crazy and totally hot. Unicorns don't exist.
Right.
He changed it. It says James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe.
That's correct.
All right. Let's see. Zach Snow says, I love this show, but I'm hating the chat tonight. Libby, love seeing you on the show, but you're killing the chat section tonight.
It's not me, you guys. Why
I'm
are you blaming me?
Yeah, that's,
I haven't even been in the chat.
That's right. She has
I've been
not.
over
That's
here
correct.
in this chair
She's been very focused.
with King Kong.
Yeah.
all right. We'll grab one more. Dork Tenian says, I will run the nightly Timcast IRL drinking show, judging which tropes are shots, drinks, and flubs.
Woo.
It was flib, right? It was flib?
Florbs? I don't
When
remember.
I made up a word
yeah,
for woman.
flips.
You should say florbs again. That was really
Florb-
funny.
Florbs good, yeah.
Someone,
Okay.
who was it? They were like, what word should we use for a woman then?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
not
flibs.
Wimixon. I was like, flib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flibs. And
I
then we
like
used
florbs.
flib.
Yeah.
Florbs?
Florbo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like
florbo is neutral.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's gender neutral is.
Yeah, so my point was that if someone tells me I have to use their pronouns, I'll say I won't use the pronouns that if you're like, hey, don't use he or him, use this or that. I'll say I won't use the pronouns you want, but I'll use totally different ones you don't expect. Florbo.
Okay. Florbo.
Yeah, Florbo told me, you know. And then it's like but it's nice. It's like Florbo. It sounds like a
soft.
marshmallow.
It's
you know?
actually it's kind of fun to say.
right.
Yeah,
Which I think
It's-
should count with for words.
It was meant to be like the beanbag of words.
Right.
So
Love it.
it's soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're okay.
It
but,
actually
but they don't
it,
get to tell me what I say.
it reminds me of like you remember Floby? Remember that?
Floby? No.
Do you remember this? Is that what
Flubber.
it was called? Flowbee, and it was like a vacuum hair cutting tool.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
awesome.
it reminds me of, if you have not already, would you kindly smash the like button? Subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com. We're going to record a members-only show and probably talk about terrifying things. And it's not family-friendly. But become a member, help support our work. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL on Instagram or wherever else. You can follow me personally on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast. Libby, did you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, so I'm at The Post Millennial. You can find us at thepostmillennial.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Libby Emmons.
I'm Seamus Coughlin. I create cartoons. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes. If you guys want to go check that out, we're going to be releasing a cartoon tomorrow about Roe v. Wade. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Also, we're launching a website on May 30th. Go to freedomtunes.com, put your email in there. You'll be notified when we launch, and you'll be able to subscribe to our subscription service where you'll get extra cartoons and behind-the-scenes content.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Elad. I'm sure you could find me on all social media, and I'm sure my other stuff will be plugged in the description. Thanks for tuning in.
And I'm also here in the corner. Thank you guys all very much for tuning in. I just wrote another article for my Substack today. I was talking about Jordan Peterson quitting Twitter in a blaze of glory. It's really delightful. I brought up a few different points I don't think we mentioned on the show last night. The show is such a good place to think about new things. That's why I appreciate it. Anyway, you guys can also follow me on Twitter and minds.com at Sarah Petchlitz.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in just about an hour. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you then.
Bye.